Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
Hii ni menu mama, unaona ni menu.
Ikatai ni menu. Nani aliandika hii?
Ni mimi.
Okari! Oh my God, ameandika chapati badala ya chapati.
Hii siasa mnaongea si mzuri. It is very unhealthy kuongea siasa hiyo ya kubishana, ukane kama mnachukiana. Uchaguzi anakujanga naye anaenda.
Kitu nilikuwa nataka kukuuliza. Kuna vile unaweza nisaidia, nilikuwa nataka mkokoteni.
Mimi ndio nakuanga mkokoteni solution.
Unataka ikiwa void ya kukatakatiwa kachumbari, ama unataka iwe scrambled, ama iwe Spanish omelette.
Hello, and welcome to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jane Wamboy. It is the 11th day of April 2022. We trust your month has been off to a good start so far, and your week as well. We are glad you have chosen to start your morning with us right here on KBC Channel 1, and we welcome you to let us know where you are watching us from this beautiful Monday morning. The official hashtag that we are always using is hashtag Good Morning Kenya. Official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. Our individual handles ever remain to be at Jane Wamboy, at Victor Olo, at Dorina Range, and at Ray Manyara. And speaking of the latter, tuanze na Monday Mapa in studio. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning. It's the 11th day of April. The month is running pretty fast, but hey, we are here to give you some hot breakfast show as usual. Now, at the top of the hour, we'll be having that discussion on consensus. It's been consensus. What does it mean to the political parties? We'll be having that discussion with Richard Bosiri, who is a political analyst, as well as Wakili Katisia and Governor of Tana River, Godana Dado, to help us just to understand what's the consensus all about. We see most of the political party leaders trying to have it as part of their solution as much as they are going for nominations for various political seats. And yes, by the way, all Class A candidates, they will have their Form 1 placement either today or this week. That in the course of the day. Meanwhile, the show has to continue beginning right now. Doreen.
Yes, and clearly we've just had it. It is a packed up show this Monday morning, from what is making headlines on the different dailies to the news briefs to obviously the various conversations we have in line for you, and in addition also how the roads will be looking like. And remember again, sometime late this month or perhaps early next month, we expect the president to officially open the expressway. Works have already been completed. Just some small bits here and there, including the beautification process, is just what is actually remaining on that particular stretch. And also, if you've noticed, they are also done with markings on that stretch. Areas that are supposed to be toll-free, toll road, as well as those that are free areas, that also has taken place. So today we won't look at the entire expressway, but particularly the section of Wayaki Way beginning from James Gishu. That will be your focus this Monday morning. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okelo. Regina.
Yes, a very good morning, being April 11th. Yeah, yesterday was Palm Sunday, so I hope you had a great Mass, especially for Catholic hopefuls. By the end of this week, we're going to be celebrating Easter. So I want to remember that this is a Lenten campaign and calls for peace, as priests and also church leaders took to the pulpit over the weekend. Talking about peace, the Communication Authority of Kenya has warned that it will not extend its deadline. So you have up until Friday to register your SIM card. This coming at a time when the CEO, Ezra Chiloba, confirms and reiterates that this is not a fresh process to list the SIM cards, but it is also not political, but just a way of ensuring that the authority streamlines the telecommunications sector. Good morning once again. I'm Regina Manyara. We have so much in line for you in as far as news is concerned, and we are streaming live on our various social media platforms. You can get us also on Twitter. We value your feedback, include where you're watching this particular broadcast from. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1. Mine is at Ray Manyara. Now we start off with matters news, and an update in as far as SIM card registration is concerned is that according to Communication Authority of Kenya CEO Ezra Chiloba, the exercise is aimed at curbing breaches of the law governing SIM card registration. According to Chiloba, is that now this sentiments coming amidst concerns by a section of Kenyans who are accusing the government agency of failing to justify the need to register already listed SIM cards. Here's Safina Chen with the details.
In the last few days, telecommunication companies have experienced long queues at their outlets countrywide as Kenyans rush to beat the deadline of registering their SIM cards. The Communications Authority of Kenya had set April 15th as the last day for subscribers of different mobile phone networks to validate registration of their SIM cards, warning of a fine of up to 300,000 Kenyan shillings or a 6 months jail term for non-compliance. According to the Commission's Director General, Ezra Chiloba, an inspection by the Commission done in March 2021 revealed several breaches in the law governing SIM card registration in the country.
The SIM cards are given for free, use of fictitious identity card numbers in most cases, therefore not resulting in registration but the sale of the same. SIM cards are sold without the presentation of an identification document and no verification is actually done. These findings were based on the inspections that was carried out undercover by the authority. And accordingly, the authority directed operators to take the necessary steps to ensure full compliance of the law on SIM card registration by setting the April 15th 2022 deadline.
Chiloba says that while a USSD code of *06# can be used to verify registration, to ensure full compliance, subscribers are still expected to deposit all the relevant identification documents which mobile network operators will need to update their records.
Even in other cases, the information that has been provided only represents somebody else who took the initiative to register, who is not the person using the SIM card. So we've got more complex issues around there. So yes, 100% compliance in terms of IPRS database, but we still have to do more to get this documentation for purposes of 100% verification, to just confirm that the persons who are in the database and using that particular SIM card are the ones who claim to be.
The move has already raised several legal questions, with a petitioner moving to court to challenge the exercise, terming it unconstitutional. This even as Garissa Township Member of Parliament Aden Duale claims that the move is a plot to interfere with internet connection in the country during the upcoming general election.
If you are registered, everybody who goes to get a new SIM card always is registered with ID. So there is no need of registering people again. So I think government must come out very clearly, and that we only want those who are not registered. And even those who are not registered, we don't know how they got their mobiles in the first place. How did they get their SIM?
Chiloba was quick to warn against politicizing the process, which he insists is meant to ensure customer protection.
By coincidence, of course, it happens to be in the election year. And we're talking about 60 days that were given from February to now April. So it's got nothing to do with the elections, but it's happening in the election year. And we are in the business of communication. What is the risk there? The only risk that we see there is miscommunication, misinterpretation by those who want to frustrate the process. But it's got nothing to do with the business we've referred to.
5 days to the deadline, the operators remain optimistic that they will achieve 100% compliance.
The authority there confirming that it will not extend the deadline set. So you have until Friday to do the necessary. Now on to matters politics. Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua says Maendeleo Chapchap Party is firmly in Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. Speaking after a special meeting convened by Maendeleo Chapchap Governing Council, Mutua announced Maendeleo Chapchap had unanimously decided to support Raila Odinga's presidential bid after the party's concerns were addressed.
Days after a section of parties complained of being sidelined under the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance coalition, Maendeleo Chapchap Party leader Alfred Mutua announced the party had unanimously decided to back Raila Odinga's presidential bid.
Before, we were not together because we were not happy. It seemed like it was a group on a three-legged stool. Si tukasema, but now when Raila jumped in, when he realized there's a problem, he was able to use his wisdom and he was able to sort out the problem, and all those clauses that were going to exclude us were removed and better clauses were put to include all of us, because we were going to go at separate ways. Lakini akasema hapana, this is better. And he's not doing it because of a few of us. He's doing it for everyone because yake ni Azimio la Umoja.
In a special governing council meeting convened to discuss options available for the party ahead of the August 9 polls, Governor Mutua expressed his desire to be Raila's running mate.
My team told me, Mutua, you are able like everybody else. You are young. You are 51. In 10 years' time, you will be younger, still younger than some of the other people today. So they said you have the ability, you have the vigor, you have the ideas, character, and hautaanza kucampaign the following day baada ya Raila kushinda.
Underscoring the need for leaders to work together under Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition, Mutua called for a handshake between him and Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka.
Nimeambia Kalonzo Musyoka, tuache mambo. Come, tushikane mkono tukakampenia Raila. You know, hii vita yetu tutaendelea baadaye kwa sababu it's the nature of politics. There's going to be generational change fights, you know? Yeah. There's a calf that becomes a bull and then you get two bulls in a stable. There's going to be warring there until one bull is pushed out.
Meanwhile, Nairobi gubernatorial aspirant Richard Ngatia has pledged to set up 3 hospitals in every ward in the city if elected governor.
Ukizungumza maneno ya vijana ni pesa. Na ndio kwa maana tukiwa wote tunasema Kanairo na Ngatia, pesa mfukoni. Pesa mfukoni, maisha levo. Maisha levo, zaga zaga. Lazima tutawashughulikia.
Speaking after being endorsed by a section of clergy and Kikuyu elders in a rally in Kangemi, Ngatia also promised to give each ward 10 machines for making cab rolls that will be bought by the county government for construction of roads.
Mimi ningetaka kusema vijana, kazi basi tutawatafutia. Na kila kijana kwa kila ward katika hii Nairobi, lazima tukiwa kwa county tuwapatie machines 10 ambaye zitatengeneza kabro. Mukitengeneza hizo kabro, sisi tukiwa kwa county tunazinunua, alafu tunajenga mabarabara naye.
Wiper! Mimi nasema chama ya Wiper, sisi tunasimama na Bwana Ngatia, ndio sababu tuko hapa. Tusimame na wewe ili uwe the next incoming governor.
Richard Waweru Ngatia ndio candidate wa Azimio governor 2022 Nairobi.
Elsewhere, Siaya gubernatorial aspirant George Mugoye Mbeya is accusing the Orange Democratic National Elections Board of lack of transparency in the nomination process, hence causing anxiety among contenders.
As a candidate, I heard it as a rumor that somebody is going to be given a direct nomination. I'm yet to be informed. I believe that the party need to inform the aspirants even if not only me, all the aspirants, because people seem to be running around.
Mbeya made the remarks at a public rally in Siaya town. The nominations in Siaya are slated for Wednesday 13th, and Mbeya will seek the ODM ticket against Siaya Senator James Orengo and former United Nations employee Bella Akinyi.
The nomination headache there, and right now we're also talking about who is going to be the running mate. What exactly does the law say in regard to timelines? That is going to be better put into focus as we get into our current affairs conversation in not too long. Now, still keeping up with matters politics, Deputy President William Ruto has called on members of Parliament to reject the Finance Bill 2022 that will fund the financial budget for the year 2022-2023. He was speaking in Kiambu County, where he said that the budget presented last week will raise the cost of living.
Deputy President William Ruto led the Kenya Kwanza Brigade to campaign in Kiambaa, Limuru and Kikuyu constituencies.
Asanteni.
The debate on the rising cost of living dominating in the speeches. Ruto calling on members of parliament to reject the finance bill that will actualize the 2022-2023 budget.
Nyinyi mnajua budget imesomwa juzi. Hiyo budget inataka kuongeza bei ya maji. Sijui iongeze bei ya mkate. Sijui iongeze bei ya unga. Sijui iongeze bei ya ndudhi. Sisi tunataka kuambia hiyo budget haiwezi kupita kwa bunge, na ikipita kwa bunge miezi mitatu baadaye tutaibadilisha iwe ni budget ya mwananchi wa kawaida.
Legislators accompanying the deputy president vowed to shoot down the finance bill once tabled in the National Assembly.
And we saw last week Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga and Ukur Yatani conspiring to continue raising the cost of living. We want to tell them today from Banana, that finance bill that you have brought to the assembly, that is raising the price of unga, that is raising the price of bread, that is raising the price of boda boda, hiyo hatutapitisha kwa bunge.
Meanwhile, a section of Democratic Party officials have lodged an objection at the Office of Registrar of Political Parties against coalition agreement signed on Saturday between party leader Justin Muturi and Kenya Kwanza Alliance.
What happened yesterday was a blatant act of corruption in which a few individuals illegally mortgaged the parties to an outside coalition. We therefore demand as follows: that the Registrar of Political Parties reject any document purporting to be a coalition agreement with Democratic Party of Kenya, with Kenya Kwanza Alliance as one of the signatories, as the same is null and void, and it contravenes the resolutions of our NDC held on the 20th of February. And we will fight to ensure that that agreement does not see the light of the day.
Speaking matters economics, we're going to be unpacking the Finance Bill 2022 to just let you know exactly how Treasury, or rather government, intends to raise the monies it plans to spend in the financial year 2022-2023, with government there seeking to spend 3.3 trillion shillings, of which the taxman, that is the Kenya Revenue Service, now from the Kenya Revenue Authority, has been given a target to raise a cool 2.1 trillion shillings for that particular financial year. Now, still keeping up with matters politics, Green Thinking Action Party leader Dr. Isaac Kalua has cautioned politicians against divisive politics during the ongoing political campaigns. Dr. Kalua said the election will come and go, but the country will still exist beyond August 9th.
Speaking at a fundraiser for the construction of St. Martin's ACK Cathedral in Kitui Town, the Green Thinking Action Party leader Dr. Isaac Kalua said politicians need to be at the forefront championing peaceful campaigns.
Haitafaa viongozi wangu, watu wa makanisa, wanakwaya, kukua ya kwamba tuko kwa nchi ambayo tunapata shida wakati wa siasa.
Dr. Kalua, who was in the company of the clergy, urged leaders and the general public to embrace harmonious living, regardless of political affiliations.
And there is a price for democracy, even in the leadership and even institutions that have been given power to guide peace in this nation. Nafikiri tukiwa na amani ambayo imetoka ndani ya moyo yetu, hakuna neno tutapimia, kwa sababu yale maneno yameandikwa yalitoka kwenye vinywa vyetu, na tunaweza tukatoa mengine machafu zaidi kama hatujajiweka ile mita moyoni mwetu.
Mara zingine inatutisha, tukishangaa ili nchi itaenda njia gani ama itakuwa. I want to encourage us that beyond that, Kenya will be stronger, Kenya will be blessed, that you and I who have testimony will stand up with the servant leader and say, the Lord has opened my ears, I have not been rebellious.
He urged politicians and the electorate to maintain decorum during and after the electioneering period.
Now off to the counties where farmers in the country have been assured of adequate fertilizer during this planting season. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya says there is enough stock of subsidized fertilizer in all National Cereals and Produce Board silos, and farmers should take advantage of the incentive to purchase the commodity.
Speaking at a meeting with tea farmers from Kadangariri Tea Factory in Embu, Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya defended the capping of the number of bags of fertilizer accessible to farmers, noting that the 20 bags is an increase from the previous 5 and will go a long way in boosting farming.
Hiyo serikali imetoa 5.7 billion kurangaramia hiyo fertilizer. Na iko kwa store sa serikali. Musu atikuambia enda kwa duka hapa ugenda ukute ya bei ni juu. Useme Munya amesema uongo, hapana. Iko kwa NCPB.
Munya also hit out at politicians who are using the fertilizer issue as fodder for political campaign, saying the government was keen on ensuring stability in the sector. Elsewhere, Tourism Principal Secretary Zainab Hussein has underscored the role played by non-state actors in the war against climate change in the country. Hussein, who spoke when she led students, environmental activists and government officials in a tree planting exercise at the iconic Mamangina waterfront in Mombasa County, says their input has boosted Kenya's commitment to expand her forest cover.
Miti kusiisha hapa leo, ukirudi nyumbani, endelea kupanda miti. Na niwahimiza pia FAO na Environment Trust Kenya na Mamangina waterfront. Sioni kama tutamaliza kupanda miti hapa leo. Kwa hivyo nataka hii iwe ni jukumu ambao kila mwezi na tukianza mfumo wa mvua tuendelee kupanda miti hapa.
Meanwhile, the government is urging communities living in semi-arid areas to embrace cultivation of drought-resistant crops. The State Department for Planning commenced the formulation of the 4th medium-term plan in Kilifi County, with most of the developmental projects implementations aimed at curbing drought in the county.
The National Treasury and Planning, in collaboration with Council of Governors and other stakeholders, is reviewing guidelines for the preparation of CIDPs. These guidelines will be shared with county governments to facilitate preparation of county policies, programs and projects for the next 5 years.
Tumaini yetu ya kwamba in the 4th medium term plan, hiyo mpango itafanya miogo cassava iwe ni mimea ambayo tunaweza kupata katika kila boma, na tusiwe wakati tunakuwa na ukame tunakuwa na baa ya njaa katika manyumba zetu.
Finally, a section of integrated internally displaced persons living in Nyandarua County are calling on the government to fast-track the process of compensating them. According to their coordinator, James Moura, the government had set aside 6 billion shillings for the resettlement of victims of the 2007-2008 post-election violence, but the money is yet to get to all intended beneficiaries.
Now on to matters sports, where Ruben Kiprop of Kenya finished third in this year's Rotterdam Marathon behind 2020 Tokyo Olympic silver medalist Abdi Nyageye of Netherlands and Ethiopia's Lelul Gebreselassie. Haven Hailu emerged victorious in the women's category ahead of Nanike Buckingham of Netherlands, who settled for the second position.
The 41st edition of the Rotterdam Marathon took place today with over 950,000 fans in attendance. Kenya's Ruben Kiprop took charge of the leading pack that comprised of the 2020 Tokyo silver medalist Abdi Nyageye and Lelul Gebreselassie and Kenya's duo Kenneth Kipkemoi and Roger Sondati. The Kenyan trio fell behind heading into the final kilometers as Kiprop easily surrendered the lead to Abdi Nyageye and Lelul Gebreselassie. Nyageye clocked 2 hours 4 minutes and 56 seconds to bag the title ahead of Ethiopian's Lelul, who came in second. Kiprop finished third, clocking 2 hours 5 minutes and 12 seconds. In the women's category, Haven Hailu emerged victorious ahead of Nyanke Brickman of Netherlands, who finished second.
22 dead. There's our winner on the women's side. It is a maiden victory here for the 24-year-old Ethiopian Haven Hailu.
Congratulations to the Kenyan team. Now the national boxing team heat squad finished second overall as the captains came to a close on Africa's Zone 3 Boxing Championship in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Benjamin Musa Chargers bagged 17 medals, 6 gold, 5 silver and 6 bronze. Stylish featherweight Samuel Njau, bantamweight Shafi Bakari, light heavyweight Elizabeth Adigo and welterweight Evelyn Akinyi won gold medals, while Stacey Ayoma and Lorna Kusa bagged silver medals on the final day of the regional showpiece. Flyweight David Karanja and light welter Teresia Wanjiro also bagged gold for Kenya, while Elizabeth Akinyi and light welter Victor Odhiambo walked away with silver medals. Defending super heavyweight champion Eli Ajowi and Boniface Mugunde scooped bronze medals. Congratulations to Hit Squad team there for doing Kenya proud in that particular, continental showpiece. So that brings a cap to Matters News. Remember, further details are still available on our website. That is www.kbc.co.ke. We take a quick breather and we'll be back with what the dailies have in store for you and I this Monday morning. Do not go away.
Niache mimi na familia yangu tafadhali. Sitawahi kukusamehe mpaka kufa kwangu.
Dadako hata tuacha tuishi kwa amani.
Unawezaje kwenda kumuwafaza wakati wajua faza ndo tegemea lolio peke yake?
Kwa kama ushatemwa usileteza ovu mimi hapa.
I give you a good lawyer akuwakilisha. What's the problem?
Mimi nitashinda vipi kesi wakili kama wewe utatoa ushahidi?
Ipo siku wakili utarudi ndani ya hii nyumba na hautanipata.
Shihua Cosmetics paid me $10 million in advances. If I fail to find a new guarantor, they'll end the contract with me.
Let it be then. If you can't handle it, leave it then.
Tell me right now. I want the whole truth. Apart from tricking my mother into becoming the president, what more have you done?
Shame on you!
What are you doing?
How dare you! How dare you attack my son!
Are you an aspiring candidate in the upcoming general elections? Do you want your agenda and manifesto to reach your voters effectively? At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
All right, on to our local dailies, starting with the Star newspaper here. On the front page, Haji, no graft charges for governors and MPs. Haji, no graft charges for governors and MPs. DPP hands politicians major reprieve after slamming brakes on their prosecution. Now, DCI and EACC will, however, proceed with anti-corruption investigations. We'll give you more details shortly. Some call me a dog, says Sia Widow, as women fight for political space in a campaign. It's a dirty game. DP Ruto plots showdown with President Kenyatta over proposed high taxes. You've also watched that story over the finance bill, and he says that he will fight it. All right, the story here of a lady who is eyeing for a political seat in Siaya says that it's even more unwelcoming when they seek political seats. She says that she's going through a lot of mental torture and name calling, such as wives of graveyard. She's a widow, and such names are not so good, not so good. And remember that the EACC and the Commission for Integration Commission also said that there are certain words that should not be used during the campaign period. Cancer warrior and her wife help others fight dreaded disease. Now, Ngugi was planning his wedding 10 years ago when he was diagnosed with cancer, and now they're out to campaign against the disease. So the DPP, according to the story, says that the DPP said that his office will uphold international best practices on prosecution of politicians accused of corruption, especially during election campaigns. Now he said that, and I quote, "We don't want to be accused of making decisions based on political leanings." And that is why he said that at this particular point, there will be no politician who will be accused of corruption charges. Raila pushes to stem simmering Azimio revolt and amid zoning claims. And under pressure, Raila said that there will be no zoning of any regions for parties within Azimio. And of course, ODM leader Raila Odinga actually right now is in a very tight spot in aggressive push to stem threats of internal revolts and seal emerging cracks in his Azimio outfit. And of course, that has been on the lips of many for quite some time now. And of that story, Ruto plots face off with Uhuru over budget, vows to fight for Wanjiku. He says that he will rally his team to shoot down finance bill of 2022. And finally, there's a suspect who was detained by police for surveying express highway. So the police are detaining him, and he was found in possession of Islamic literature and could not explain how and who had given him the permission to take pictures. Now, it is presumed that the suspect was found at a stretch deemed prohibited and was taken in for questioning, and of course that place is manned, being a restricted area, and now he's still under police custody. They are waiting to see what will happen. So the story of Form 1 selection, actually it will happen either today or tomorrow, depending on how the CES, George Magoha, will handle his itinerary and the rest of it. Jen.
Now let's come to the Daily Nation. I start you off with the front page. The first story, of course, in regards to the Director General at Communications Authority, Chiloba, moves to quell fears on the registration of SIM cards, and this particular move to just ensure a fresh registration for those that hadn't been registered is pegged on they did an inspection exercise a year ago where they came to find out in 22 counties, this was last year, they found out there's some SIM cards that are registered using other people's ID cards, others are registered using student ID cards, and others are even registered using their national social security funds, and others are just outright not even registered, and these numbers were actually given to people. So this is one of the some of the reasons that were highlighted by the Director General over there. Also, they went and said that this move will help to reduce the incidences of financial fraud, kidnapping, terrorism, and other related crimes that arise due to compromised SIM cards. But he went on to clarify, because there has been a lot of misinformation when it comes to the registration of this particular SIM cards. If your SIM card was registered after 2015, okay, you don't have to re-register afresh. But if you had registered your SIM card before 2015, then you are required to visit a telecommunication agent, of course, based on your service provider, and update your details. And you can also check how many SIM cards are registered using your ID number, using *106#, and you'll be able to get the list of numbers that are registered using your ID. And also parents that have registered SIM cards for their minors using their ID. There's also a requirement for this particular lot. Yes, here we go. Parents who have registered their IDs have registered SIM cards for their minors are required to ensure that these lines are regularized by submitting birth certificate details of the minors, again, to your service provider. So you can go ahead and read more of that here on this particular daily. And again, *106 to just confirm which numbers are registered to your SIM card. Now, coming to the back to the front page, the main read today: I will trash Uhuru's punitive, quote-unquote, budget. That's the main read here on the front page of the Daily Nation. I'll trash Uhuru's punitive budget. These are the words of Deputy President William Ruto, where yesterday he opened a new battlefront with his boss over the 2022-2023 budget, and asked his allies in the House, all the MPs that are allied to him, to shoot it down when it comes to the House for debate. And should they fail to do so, if he does become the president of Kenya after the August 9th general elections, he will dismember this particular budget because it only serves to the disservice of the common mwananchi. Those were his words. And finally, or rather, the second last story that has been featured here on the front page is Raila, a victim of blackmail in Azimio. That is the question. This comes as ODM chief seems to be struggling to satisfy more than 20 parties that are allied to him in the coalition, and some are even accusing him of dishonesty. And now his major dilemma is to satisfy the 3 governors in the Ukambani region. How will he keep them happy? And of course, this comes as, Mutua threw a spanner in the works where he presented himself as a potential running mate. Questions are abound due to this particular move, with Kalonzo Musyoka being the most probable running mate. And finally, COVID-19 infections increases diabetes risk. This is according to a new study that was done for over a year of tracking patients who had succumbed, or rather who had contracted COVID-19. It has been estimated that a huge chunk of them have been diagnosed with diabetes post-exposure to COVID-19. And even those that were asymptomatic, they're those that have presented themselves to hospital with symptoms that are linked to diabetes. Details in not too long. Doreen.
All right.
Hard choices for Uhuru in Raila's Azimio campaign. That is what you're waking up to this morning on the People Daily. And contrary to what was the anticipation or expectation, whereby you had been said to see the president actively campaigning for Raila Odinga, that might not just be the case, as there are now sharp divisions and opinion as to whether he needs to be there or not. And those opposing this particular move are saying, particularly when it comes to his Mount Kenya region, the backyard there, they do not want to see the president having to undergo heckling or even booing from that area, saying that it's not a good move to the outgoing president if that were the case. So that is just what is happening there. And you're not expected to see the president actually now actively campaigning for Raila Odinga up until perhaps a later time. But for now, that won't be the case. And Ruto says that he will ensure, or better still, they will ensure there's a peaceful, free and fair election. And he also said and pledges to Kenyans that he will deliver economic revolution if at all he gets to win the August 9th general election. Part of what he will really target so much is the question of job creation in this country, and also ensure that businesses get a friendly environment. And the question is always not in what is being promised, but the how to do it, particularly when it comes to the question of job creation in this country. Very pertinent issue right there, and this is obviously to the young people. And also, just as it has been mentioned there, I think in the Star as well as the Daily Nation, Mutua expresses interest in Raila's running mate slot. And again, the running mate question is obviously coming out, also fully knowing that the Wiper Party has also flaunted the Wiper leader there, Jubilee Party, also saying that this slot needs to go to the Mount Kenya region. So again, it's a time where you do not wish to be Raila Odinga, because which side or which faction will you please, seeing that this is a coalition that has about 25 or 26 parties, just a question of sibling rivalry here and there, and trying to sort of quell when this qualms are coming up. So that is what he is saying there. This is even after that conversation that had sparked up that he was to ditch Azimio, but now it looks like that is not going to be the case. So this is also one of those areas that is being looked at even as the nominations are continuing. Who really will be the running mate when it comes to this entire coalition? And also, police took home 500 million Kenyan shillings in bribes. This is from the recruitment process of the police that was just recently concluded around March. And this just shows that the job seekers ended up losing a lot of shillings in millions to those that had been promised these jobs, who actually didn't end up getting the jobs. And even for those that are undergoing this training, this report also shows that they had to pay some bribes just to be taken by the force. And that's the question. Can there really be merit in seeking and getting jobs? Does it always have to be a question of bribing just to try and ensure that you actually get that job that you're looking for as a country? As a person. And this also is happening even as the police force is saying that they are really trying. They are investigating this matter, and they will bring to book those that would have been found culprits of this incident. And lastly, pain still at the pump for a good number of motorists, and this is particularly in the western and the Nyanza part of the country. Even after that supplementary budget was signed by the president and 8.2 already disbursed to the oil marketers, it still shows that there's some parts in this country whereby passengers have to cough quite a huge amount of money, and matatu operators are hiking prices because fuel is still lacking in these parts of the country. Regina.
Now, the front page equally looks like what we have, or rather what you've already heard from my colleagues there, just a confirmation and clarification from the Communication Authority of Kenya that you have up until Friday to register and check your details in as far as the SIM card registration is concerned. Yesterday, from the pulpit, being Palm Sunday, it was all about peace calls ahead of the August 9th general elections, and talking about general elections. The main question and the big read in this particular daily is about, a new headache, so to speak, for the main presidential candidates. So, State House ticket, Machakos governor offers to deputize Azimio leader days after Kalonzo said he wants the seat. Now, Nakuru governor also insists that Mount Kenya will accept nothing less than the deputy president slot. That is what we have on the front page of this particular daily, but also on stories that are making headlines across the world is that France is already voting. And the person running against the incumbent, or rather the current president, that is none other than, far-right candidate Marine Le Pen, who is posing an expected threat to President Emmanuel Macron's re-election hopes. Across in the Americas, we have Mexico there voting on a referendum that will decide if the current president, that is Andres Manuel, is fit to continue being in office. While some opposition think that this is a move aimed at extending President Andres Manuel's, rule, or rather tenure as the president of Mexico. Talking about what is also happening across Eastern Europe. Now, President of Ukraine, that is Zelensky there, has said that the aggression that is currently being witnessed in Ukraine is not just about Ukraine, but that this is Russia is targeting all of Europe with this particular invasion. We have learned over the last few weeks that Kenya is not so far removed in as far as the uncertainty around the Ukraine-Russian war there. Prices of wheat as well as fertilizer taking a hard hit in as far as disruptions to the global supply is concerned. In Pakistan, on the other hand, is that the vote of no confidence has set the ball rolling to have elections. Now, the opposition, which spans the political spectrum of religious radical, will form the new government. That is a development in as far as Pakistan is concerned. Across Australia, May 21st is when Australians are going to be voting, and this is after Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison there said that he's ready. That is the day that he's ready, or rather that's the day that they want to have that particular election. So in Africa and across Africa, we're looking at, the ravages of drought, issues of climate change there, with reports coming in that in Ethiopia, the current drought has seen, persons there, livestock keepers lose a cool 1 million cattle due to the drought situation. This comes at a time when Met Department in Tanzania has given a notice to Kenya that we should be expecting rains from Tuesday. If this comes to pass, we'll be here to experience that. Now that we're done with what we have on the various dailies, we want to leave in the able hands of Traffic Marshal A1 to bring us up to speed with what it's looking like this Monday morning on our major roads. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
All right, now the expressway is just about to be unveiled, and we expect the president to commission this particular road either in April or early May. This is after works in this particular stretch are actually almost complete, just bits here and there remaining, and basically what is currently happening is a beautification of that particular stretch. They haven't really quite put a specific date as to when this is going to be happening. I'm talking about that commissioning, but at least what we know so far is that there are various agencies that have been selected who will be part of that team that will be doing the test drive on that particular road before it actually gets to be opened up to the public. We obviously in part of this team, or in addition to this team, be having the Moja Expressway, which is actually one of those companies that is going to ensure they be part of the maintaining of this particular road for the next 27 years, even as Kenyans will be paying the toll fee, which will be going back to the company to recoup that which they have used in the construction process of the expressway. So right now, we just want to look at how the area of Wayaki Way is looking like, particularly from James Gishuru as you head over to the city center. just seeing that is where the expressway gets to terminate at, beginning all the way from Lolongo area in Mombasa Road, coming all the way through sections of Uhuru Highway up until Wayaki Way, up until the James Gishuru Road. So perhaps you can begin from the ABC place there as you head over to the city center. This is how the area is looking like. And again, remember, also part of why the expressway is being constructed is to reduce the traffic flow on these two major roads, given the fact that it's one of those busy roads, also very key and instrumental when it comes to economy in this country, when it comes to transportation of goods here and there to different parts of the country and even beyond the country. So that is part of why this road is being constructed, just to try and ensure that they reduce that traffic flow there. So this is how it is looking like on areas on the James Gishuru Road as you head over to areas of Lavington. There, traffic being witnessed as you leave areas of Kawangware, Lavington, coming through James Gishuru there just before you get to Wayaki Way, but particularly on that stretch just near there before you get to the main road. That's just where there's a bit of traffic, but not really that bad, much as it's moving at a pretty slow pace there. But away from the traffic being witnessed there as you head over to city center, moving at a swift pace, and the beauty is that this is actually on both lanes along Wayaki Way. So that simply means that if you're coming from areas of Kikuyu, Uthiru, Kino, like I mentioned there, Kawangware West, as well as Lavington, heading over to the city center, it is a good time for you. And also if you're leaving CBD, heading over to those areas, still a very good time for you, because right now, at least around this particular place, moving at a swift pace. And again, just as I mentioned earlier, because nothing is changing there, this is actually on both lanes of this entire stretch. That continues all the way up until areas of Westlands there, where we're really beginning to spot heavy kind of traffic. In fact, moving at a very slow pace. Quite interesting is that this is actually being witnessed or seen as you leave city center, heading over there to the estates. Why I'm saying is a bit interesting is because oftentimes, particularly in this early morning hour, you wouldn't really be expecting to see traffic as you leave CBD heading to the estates, which is now what we are seeing here. On the other side, as you're leaving the estates, coming to the city center, moving at a very swift pace. But again, just as it is on this particular road, quite a number of businesses. It is a commercial area, commercial center, just like Upper Hill, and that is also part of what has necessitated that expressway, and also altogether the expansion that you have been seeing around areas of Westlands, given the fact that it is one of those busy areas. So this is how it is looking like this morning in terms of traffic. Nothing is changing there. Still heavy kind of traffic. In fact, moving at a very slow pace as you head over to areas of ABC Place as well as James Gishuru there, and that again also continues up until past Westlands as you head over to the city center, areas of Ojiji Road, also Parklands Road. Still the same case scenario all the way to as you head over again to the city center. This is how the section is looking like around the roundabout there. That is the Westlands roundabout just next to the Naiva supermarkets. Again, on that entire section, heavy kind of traffic there. But look at that, this is just changing right this very second, opening up a bit just before you get to the roundabout, particularly on that lane that as you leave city center, going all the way to the estates on that specific side. This has just changed right now, so moving at a swift pace there. On the other side, the same is still being witnessed in terms of traffic there, but not so much as it was around the areas of Parklands. So yes, there's a bit of a traffic, but at least manageable kind of traffic all through up until past the roundabout there. Past that area, still as you come to the city center, things are opening up, moving at a swift pace. That is being witnessed on both sides or on both lanes of this particular stretch. That is still Wayaki Way. And actually this continues just before you get to the University Way roundabout. That is how it is looking like this morning in terms of traffic along Wayaki Way, and particularly just as you leave the James Gishuru Road. And again, up until this road is opened to the public, we will still continue to keep an eye on it, trying to see how the remaining works of this route will ultimately affect traffic altogether. And that is how it is looking like this morning along Wayaki Way, particularly around the James Gishuru Road.
kabwatutikuk ngimache iyat muguleldangung ngimache imanguge nyangebe kiputinai lale kimi kibagenge Kitwek FM kigosi Kitwek FM kigosi
98.0 Kitwek FM Kegosin.
Hii ni menu mamaji, unaona ni menu.
Ikatai ni menu. Nani aliandika hii?
Ni mimi.
Okari! Oh my god, ameandika chapati badala ya chapati.
Hii siasa mnaongea si mzuri. It is very unhealthy kuongea siasa hiyo ya kubishana, kukana kama mnachukiana. Uchaguzi anakujanga naye anaenda.
Kitu nilikuwa nataka kukuuliza. Kuna vile unaweza nisaidia, nilikuwa nataka mkokoteni.
Mimi ndio nakuanga mkokoteni solution. Unataka ikiwa void ya kukatakatiwa kachumbari, ama unataka iwe scrambled, ama iwe Spanish omelette.
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
You expect me to call you dad? You want me to pretend that nothing happened?
No, I don't. If I were you, I wouldn't hesitate to tell her who you are, Antonio.
My mother married you against her will because my grandparents pressured her.
No, that is not true.
I'm having your baby, Fabricio.
Your brother Daniel is alive.
What?
Lying heart. Pues sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
Shihua Cosmetics paid me $10 million in advances. If I fail to find a new guarantor, they'll end the contract with me.
Let it be then. If you can't handle it, leave it then.
Tell me right now. I want the whole truth. Apart from tricking my mother into becoming the president, what more have you done?
Shame on you!
What are you doing?
How dare you! How dare you attack my son!
Hii ni menu mamaji, unaona ni menu.
Ikatai ni menu. Nani aliandika hii?
Ni mimi.
Okari! Oh my god, ameandika chapati badala ya chapati.
Hii siasa mnaongea si mzuri. It is very unhealthy kuongea siasa hiyo ya kubishana, kukana kama mnachukiana. Uchaguzi anakujanga naye anaenda.
Kitu nilikuwa nataka kukuuliza. Kuna vile unaweza nisaidia, nilikuwa nataka mkokoteni.
Mimi ndio nakuanga mkokoteni solution. Unataka ikiwa void ya kukatakatiwa kachumbari, ama unataka iwe scrambled, ama iwe Spanish omelette.
Welcome back. It's now for us to get into the political arena and battle it out here and see what really happened over the weekend and what we should expect in this coming week as well as the coming weeks as well. So in studio with me, I have got Wakili Kevin Katisia. Welcome back. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm happy to be back again as we engage in this good debate.
Karibu.
Asante sana.
And next to you is Daktari Richard Bosiri, who is a lecturer at the University of Nairobi Political Science as well as political analyst. Daktari. Buyori.
Biyamano.
Kabisa.
Achio maber ahinya.
Good. You see? I wonder you're a doctor. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have you registered your SIM card? The two of you. Have you registered your SIM card? There's a communication with this.
My SIM card is already registered. I didn't pick it from the street.
Yes.
You know, my SIM card has always been registered.
Yeah. Okay, and what about you, Kevin? There's that threat by Nelson Harvey to sue CA because of this process. What's this all about?
Yes, Victor, I think I agree with my senior, Nelson Harvey, on that issue.
Yes.
Because you see, according to the Kenya Information and Communication Act, which was revised in 2020, and I was part of that process when we were revising the same, Section 27A of that Act places the duty on the telecommunication operator to ensure that all SIM cards are registered. But you see what CA is doing, and I disagree with Ezra Chiloba on that. They are placing the duty on the subscribers or on the Kenyans who already have those lines. It should be the operators who should ensure that anybody who has a registered line with them, it's registered. So now telling Kenyans, imagine somebody living in the farthest part of Kenya, maybe in Wajir, Mandera, and there's no nearby Safaricom or Airtel agent, and you force them to ensure that they go and register. Some of them travel long distance to go and buy those lines. So if the operators have failed, why are you giving the burden to the Kenyans? The Communication Authority has the mandate to ensure that these operators ensure that all SIM cards are registered. So I agree with my senior Nelson Harvey, and I think Ezra Chiloba should go back and evaluate his mandate. Because when you see the Safaricom Chief Security Officer and now the Managing Director for Airtel coming and sitting down, and now they are discussing how they will force Kenyans to go to them instead of these operators going to the Kenyans. I think that is not the proper procedure to be followed, in my opinion.
And actually Chiloba says that he won't extend deadlines for SIM card registration. That's until Friday. And he said that it is an opportunity for operators and customers to validate details. But again, there is something quite interesting. He said that some people are saying that CA is acting, it's political now. Everything political as you speak. So he said this is not a political move as you speak. Do you think it's political move? Because some would say that Safaricom and Airtel command a huge following. So, you know, the system, quote unquote, might be using. You know,
I think it's not political. The problem is that we're in a political season. And we are politicizing everything, including the budgets and all that. Everything is now politicized. Now, if the responsibility, and I agree with my brother here, but I can see that the responsibility is placed on whether the law is specific. But the implementation of it requires actually the operator and the user of the service to cooperate to be able to have this done. But you know, our people also, in most cases, Victor, I think we like shortcuts. Some people hawk, even the hawking they were talking about. And the phones have become also a security issue, which actually Chiloba can address together with the security agencies in order to weed out those people who have got the SIM cards and are using them to extort money from people. I thought the intentions are good. The approach could be tweaked a little bit, but again, it is our responsibility. I don't know how else, unless they do it online, because if they check the system, they will see all my details there. The phone number, Safaricom phone number or Airtel phone number I have is registered, so they can actually get in touch with me and verify the information. I don't know if they need my picture to be there, but we have a problem that I think they will sort out. Perhaps they are taking a wrong approach. Many people, yesterday I got someone, and this man was supposed to send him some money. Then I asked him the number. He gave me the number, and then whose name is it? And my mom's name. Why should a grown man who is 28 years old, be using his mom's name? There must be something wrong. And this guy is standing for political position somewhere, which means he actually should be having his ID. So all these things should be weeded out. I think we have created a situation in our country that people don't want to follow the little of the rules. Even in traffic rules, it's a red light. I saw it as I was coming here. We stop at a red light, someone is hooting behind me. You know, it's like, what is wrong with our society? We must follow the rules. We acquire SIM cards in the right way. In fact, let them implement it. If possible, let them use electronic system to be able, like Chiloba, I think he kind of changed the position, that we can call in and check and verify the information. But if someone is in committee and still, he can still verify that information. But have you made a difference in trying to ensure that phones are actually registered to the real people, to the people who own them, or the people can fake or use your identity to register SIM cards? Because some of these things have to be weeded out.
It's actually as simple as that. You know, back in the day, SIM card would cost around 2,500, 1,000 shillings. You know, right now it's like free. And it should be so easy. In fact, there is a procedure. Let me just do it. Perhaps we can do it together. It's for us to confirm whether our SIM cards are registered. It's a *106#.
That's what.
Okay. *106#, and then option 1. Check my numbers. Good.
Okay.
Good.
Option 1.
It's *106#, and then option 1. I have got 2 numbers registered using my ID.
Yes, I also have 2 numbers.
You have 2 numbers.
I see them here.
ID.
Yeah, I see them here.
So, Ezra Chiroba, so far you have got 3 gentlemen who are law-abiding.
Yes.
Here we go. All right, so we are safe.
Yes, we are.
All right. Gentlemen, so if you've not registered, all right, I think it's quite important, because you usually see these messages, ma'am, box yangu ilivunjwa, my calculator, this and that. For security reasons, I think it's just important to just follow the law. All right, on to the politics of the day. Consensus. It's a new word in town, perhaps for many, that politically speaking, let me start with you, Wakili.
Yes.
Consensus. Legally speaking, in the political arena, what do you understand by that?
Consensus.
Before we get into the juicy part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Consensus is a convergence of interest, similar interest. Yeah, where people, is basically an agreement, where people with the diverse interest, they have a few compromises.
Yes.
They may disregard some interest, adopt new interest, come up with a common, mutual, compromised position, whereby now they agree, this is now the common position which we will take.
Yes.
And you see, when we talk in political consensus, these are different people with different interests, and everybody is pushing for their interest. So now for them to reach a consensus, they must sit down and agree. Will this new interest be a common interest for all of us? And you see in Kenya right now, especially in this time of nominations, several parties are encouraging consensus. You have seen all the parties. UDA, Wiper, ODM, and now that we have this provision for a coalition party, that is,
and it seems it's working for them.
I think so, but on the other hand, it is not working. Because you see, some of these people undertaking the consensus, some of them are biased towards some candidates, for example. You have seen ODM trying to encourage the same. You saw what happened in Homa Bay. And if you feel that your interest will not be taken into consideration, you opt out to either another friendly party or independent. With this idea of coalition party, and you know, Victor, under Section 10(2) of the Political Parties Amendment Act, several parties can come together and form a coalition party. And this coalition party actually has also the mandate to also field candidates in every position. Exactly. Yes. Leave alone having each party member having the right to also have their own candidates. And it is a notion which is not very common to many political players. And you see now, for these people to come together and agree, okay, in a seat, for example, in Nairobi County, the seat of governor, and every party is fielding a candidate. And you saw what Kenya Kwanza did over the weekend, where now they are telling Sakaja, they're telling Margaret Wanjiru, please step down for Sakaja. And you saw them doing that. You see, for Azimio, for example, we have Tim Wanyonyi in ODM, we have Ngatia in Jubilee. We have other players. We saw Wiper had given their ticket to a person named called Mulwa, and the ticket was withdrawn. We don't know whether there was a negotiation between Wiper and Jubilee, because we saw Wiper members going to Kangemi, where Ngatia was launching his political bid. You saw Wiper members going there, and we saw Professor Kaloki, whom many people are saying is coming to be Gatia's deputy. All this consensus is people coming together and trying to negotiate.
But is it
their interest
really working to this end? Perhaps let me ask Doctor, your opening remarks, please.
Yes, I think consensus is become the main word in town, and that's what every political party is striving towards. And I think consensus, negotiated democracy, as we say, negotiated democracy is not bad. And I think the main aim is to avoid conflict. To avoid conflict, whether political, whatever conflicts that could be there, in order to arrive at an amicable solution, whatever case it is. But Victor, I think we are also stretching, or political parties and political leaders are stretching this consensus too far. Because in a democracy, the expectation is that the people make decisions. They choose candidates for themselves. So when you seek consensus in a nomination process, in a political party, there's nothing wrong with that, because it's still within the law. But then look at it from the perspective of democratic practice. If we are going to negotiate everything, where are the people in the scheme of things? We leave the people behind. In fact, the greatest fear of most of the contestants as we speak today is, after you have agreed, what do you go back to tell your people? Because you have a following. How are you going to face your people? Because it is a negotiation between you and the other contestants. But people could have a different opinion. So why are we running away from subjecting people to party primaries, as it is known across the world? United States, developed democracy, they do their primaries, they vote, but now we're actually turning around, like voting, put voting aside, just leave it aside, let us do consensus. Everyone is running towards consensus. It's cheap. They say you don't spend a lot of money. The candidates don't spend a lot of money. There is poker. You get something. You can be given a job and all that. But I am looking at it from a democratic practice. Where does it leave the people? Because politicians say, I have been asked, I have been pressured by my people to run. So and
then all of a sudden
you are alone in a room, and you are going out there, outside. And then your people are not even outside the room, but they are at their homes. They only get the news that now this is the new framework. I think it's an assault if we do it the way we're doing it in our country. It's an assault on democracy. People are left out. Ultimately, you take these people back.
How far should the political parties stretch?
You know, there is no restriction. They could negotiate on critical areas, but they should not, in my view, resort to consensus. All of a sudden, nobody is going to hold elections. We are going to consensus. Are we going to do the same thing at the national level?
Right.
Where are we going to vote? Why can't we also at the national level agree it's Raila to be president and we forget about everything else?
Yes.
You know, or it's Ruto to be president and we forget everything else. I mean, I look at it from that perspective. We need not entirely now depend on consensus and leave the people, because democracy is about people's rule. And our constitution clearly says that sovereignty resides with the people. And nominations, Victor, nominations determine the outcome of an election, because you determine the candidates, and those are the candidates that the election would actually ultimately produce.
But sometimes as it goes, Wakili, the way he's putting it, you know, at the end of the day, voters have a voice.
Yes, yes.
An instance, Homa Bay County, what happened after, you know, the consensus between Honorable Gladys Wanga and Oyugi Magwanga, and now we saw politicians who are actually running for that particular seat. They had a photo session, and then we had Dr. Evans Kidero, who said that, you know what, I was not invited to that event, and therefore I'm not okay with the fact that there's a consensus which was reached upon. There's a threat in terms of losing numbers or strong voting blocks in a particular region with this consensus thing. What do you make of that?
I agree with that. Yes. And I also agree with what Dr. said on the importance of consensus. Let us remember that consensus was a technique which was adopted mostly when it came to making of constitutions. Because you know, in constitution making, it is people's interest. Yeah, a larger, if maybe a community comes with their own agenda and they say this is what we want for our community, and the consensus worked very well. Yeah. Even when we were talking of BBI, for example, yeah, there were these people coming from this certain region, or maybe a political party coming and saying this is our position, and now that in that way consensus was working. But when it comes to political consensus, remember this is an individual's interest, not a community interest. And I agree with the Daktari on the issue of if, for example, you call somebody and you tell them kindly leave your position and support, like you saw what UDA has been doing. Yeah, you saw recently even in Kiambu yesterday. Yes. They are telling the speaker, please, Bwana Speaker, leave your position, support this other person, and we will give you this and this. And that person will listen, say, it's okay, since I believe Kenya Kwanza will carry the day, let me leave my position, I can become a CS or a CS. That is individual interest. What about now the community interest? If the community is not happy, maybe they were fronting this person, they had their belief in him, and they are not happy, believe you me, there will be a political fallout. Look at what is happening to DP, for example. You saw Muturi went to have an agreement with the
actually he dropped his presidential bid.
Exactly. Right. And now the elders who even endorsed him in Muranga the other time, they have split diverse views. Yes. Some are saying we blessed him, like the chairperson is saying we blessed him. Others, like Professor Kagwanja, are saying no, we did not bless him. The Nyeri Senator Aspirant, for example, who is the Deputy Secretary General, he is saying no, we have written to the register of political parties and will demand that agreement is not deposited. Yes. Because you see now it becomes a question of whether was there a political consensus between DP as a party and Kenya Kwanza, or it was Muturi as
and
a
even
person.
Other stakeholders, because when you talk of the elders, those are also stakeholders, and electorates, they're stakeholders. Exactly. When a consensus is reached, then at what point should a consensus be? Because we all see boardroom affairs. Then later on, press called, an announcement is made. I don't know how it happens.
A consensus should be an outcome of a well-thought, structured negotiation. Yes. Between these two parties, or two or more parties who have come together. They want to reach a consensus. And the terms of that particular agreement should be terms which have been mutually agreed upon by all those parties who have participated in that particular consensus.
Right.
You see what is happening to Azimio, for example, and you saw these other parties who are calling themselves the fourth leg. They are calling themselves Mwanzo Mpya as well. And they are saying, you know, even I saw the deputy leader of DAP, Ayub Safula, who was in ANC, saying, we want a copy of that agreement which we signed in KICC. So the question is, you know, for there to be a genuine consensus, parties to that consensus must be aware of the terms. And it is so open and obvious that these affiliated parties to Azimio, many of them are not aware of the terms. And that's why you saw Raila after now these parties complained, and some of them like Menleo Chapchapa of Mutua, they returned to even, they said they have other options. He quickly called them and he said, okay, I have heard you. I'll actually adopt some of you in the National Council of Azimio. And they adopted 11 of them. There are, of course, others who have not been adopted in the National Council. So I think for there to be a genuine consensus, there must be an open terms, and the parties to that particular agreement must be honest with each other. And you have seen some people are saying, oh, Raila is not honest. Others are saying, no, he's very honest. Because, you know, in a consensus, all the parties must be honest to each other, because, you know, they are representing their people. So if they go there and say, you know, our voice has not been heard, and that's why I think Raila was properly advised by making sure that he calls these people, because people like Alfred Mutua are saying, you know, after Wiper Party leader came on board, we have been sidelined exactly. And that's why you saw even Mutua issuing another demand and saying, I want to become a running mate. The question is, and according to the Political Parties Amendment Act, parties must have submitted, the coalition parties must have submitted their agreement to the Register of Political Parties by the 9th of April, which was 2 days ago.
Yes, we are on 10th. So, actually, today is 11th.
Yes, because that is 3 months to the election. If that has not been submitted, so that is 4 months to the election. If failure to submit that agreement, it means, because you saw after Azimio One Kenya coalition was signed, I think changing the name, that was submitted.
Exactly.
So whatever will be discussed, which is now being discussed now after 9th of April, is null and void. It can't be enforced anywhere. So, and that's why between now and I don't know, this 9th of May, when now the deadline for submission of party of tickets, or whether independent
after the nominations.
Yes. Between now and 9th of May, there will be a lot of political fallout because the people will say, you know, for sure, whatever we agree verbally now, there's no way to enforce it. So if no party had ensured that their terms or their issues are captured in the coalition agreement, if that had not been done by the end of April, then there will be no other recourse. But you see, there was also the other discussion of coalition parties, the issue of Azimio, One Kenya and Kenya Kwanza, and you saw the DP saying we'll vie as a UDA candidate. Yes, not Kenya Kwanza candidate. Because clearly, and I think they're also alive to the fact that the timelines have lapsed. And they don't want to lock, you know, they are very smart. They don't want to lock out any other party from Kenya Kwanza. Because see, for Azimio, and I think they submitted their agreement to the registrar, new party coming will come under which platform? The coalition agreement has already been submitted. Yes.
Okay, allow me to take a break. And at this particular point, it's quite difficult being Raila Odinga and Deputy President. Everybody's pointing their fingers at them. Okay, let me take a break, and when we come back, I'll come back with Dr. Bosir, so that today we want to understand this issue of consensus. All right? Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
run to Olympia Stadion in Berlin is now less crowded, with only 4 teams out of 64 still in contention. Something more outstanding is that all of the sides to have won the DFB Pokal over the last 29 years are already out this year.
And Leverkusen are knocked out by a Bundesliga 2 side.
In the first DFB Pokal semi-final, Hamburger SV will face Freiburg on Tuesday, the 19th of April 2022 at 9:45 p.m. While in the second semi-final, RB Leipzig will lock horns with Union Berlin on Wednesday, the 20th April 2022 at 9:45 p.m. Having braced the turbulent journey and buoyed up with the trophy in sight, no team want to go down without a fight. You don't want to miss this adventurous football show, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Shihua Cosmetics paid me $10 million in advances. If I fail to find a new guarantor, they'll end the contract with me.
Let it be then. If you can't handle it, leave it then.
Tell me right now. I want the whole truth. Apart from tricking my mother into becoming the president, what more have you done?
Shame on you!
What are you doing?
Yes! How dare you? How dare you attack my son?
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
You expect me to call you Dad? You want me to pretend that
No, I don't.
If I were you, I wouldn't hesitate to tell her who you are, Antonio.
My mother married you against her will because my grandparents pressured her.
No, that is not true.
I'm having your baby, Fabricio.
Your brother Daniel is alive.
What?
Lying heart. Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
All right, welcome back. So before we continue with this discussion, let's head to Movenpick Hotel, where we have got our acting managing director, Samuel Moina, who is attending the NOC, that is National Olympics Committee briefing at Movenpick. There we have got Secretary General Francis Mutuku already addressing. Let's get there and see what is happening there.
We have a sprinter leading us. We have a marathon runner. So today we'll be talking to you in terms of long-term projects, not short-term. We are saying we need to change our perspective. The President will be speaking later, but allow me to introduce our second Vice President, Mr. Waithaka Kioni. If you could kindly stand for our guests to see you. Mr. Waithaka Kioni is also the President of the Kenya Volleyball Federation. And so that I don't run the risk of leaving out anyone, I would kindly request the executive members to stand where they are so that we can be able to see them. Our treasurer is Mr. Elliot Karaoke, right there on the side, and is also the treasurer of the Kenya Wrestling Federation. Thank you. We have our Deputy Secretary General right across, Mr. Shoaib Ayani, who is also the president of Kenya Sports Shooting Federation. We have our Deputy Treasurer, Mr. John Ogola. Mr. John Ogola is critical this year because he's also the chef de mission of Commonwealth Games, and is also the Secretary of Kenya Weightlifting Federation. We have Mr. Paul Otula, who is an executive committee member and the president of Kenya Basketball Federation. And then we have the committee members. We have Mr. Barnaba Koril. I think a lot of people, when they see Barnaba, they see Athletics Kenya. But please, this is National Olympic Committee. He's an executive member. He's been outstanding in athletics. That's why he's such a recognizable figure. And then we have Winnie Kamau, right at the back there. Winnie Kamau is an executive committee member and also the liaison person of the Youth Commission. And last, probably most importantly, we have Humphrey Kayange. I think he needs no introduction in terms of the name and what he has done, but he sits at the executive level to ensure that we have athletes at the center of our conversation, at the center of everything that we do. He's the athlete representative. He's joined by the champ of Ellen Obiri, who is not able to make it today, but that's the team. There are members who are not present. I think it's nice to acknowledge Kayange as he sits. And then I'll very quickly just ask our staff team to stand wherever they are so that you can see them. They were already standing. Maybe I should have asked them to sit because of the work they are doing. Then we have the privilege, after we are elected, we have the privilege of getting people who say they do not want to follow the political path of serving sport. They have the passion, they have the time, they have the expertise, and they have experience, and they come to join us in the commissions. I'll just ask them to stand so that you can be able to see all the members who serve in our various commissions. Please a clap for them because they learned of their services. Thank you. So that's the team which gets us to all multi-sport events. Multi-sports events, and we'll be able to let you know. We are looking at the Olympics, and for now, because we are within the Olympic discussions, we have the Summer and Winter Olympics. As you all know, Summer Olympics were last year in Tokyo. The Winter Olympics just were a month ago in Beijing. So we have the Olympics. The second one is we have the Commonwealth Games. Commonwealth Games this time will be in Birmingham, UK, and last time they were in Australia, Gold Coast. And then we have the Youth Games of each of the versions. We have the Commonwealth Youth Games, Olympic Youth Games, and we also have the African Games. Where we say African Games because in the recent past, the African Games have become qualifiers to the Olympics, and therefore it becomes part of what we do. It's a long process in terms of preparing teams, putting teams, ensuring that the teams participate. But we are looking between now all the way to 2032. 2032, the Olympic Games will be in Brisbane, Australia. We've been telling people not to look at 2032 as very far. We're in an election year. We'll elect a president this year, re-elect them, and by they'll have finished their term in 2032. It just means, or we elect one and elect a different one. Within that period, we'll have put together, we'll have a president for that period, we'll be ready for 2032. We are, and I believe this will be of interest to the people who are seated here, we are custodians of the assets around the Olympics. In terms of putting the Team Kenya together, we are custodians of the image rights. And when we talk of image rights, it's not just the individual, but the team, because individually, each of them is able to go and negotiate for themselves. And we have allowed association and activations around the team. I believe we all agree that those assets we see, they are some of the biggest in the world, especially the Olympic rings. Olympic rings.
All right, that is live event at Movenpick Hotel here in Nairobi. That is Francis Mutuku, who is the Secretary General of National Olympics Committee of Kenya. They are having a breakfast meeting there. And as soon as we have the Managing Director and the Chief Speaker, that is Samuel Maina, addressing that particular event, then we'll go straight to the Movenpick. Meanwhile, welcome back to the discussion, and I have Wakili here, Katisia, and Dr. Bosire. Gentlemen, we're talking about consensus now, and let's now get to understand how, Dr. the whole issue of consensus will cast some sense of doubt among the political party players.
Victor, yes. The main problem that we have in our country's politics, in fact, one could say is mistrust or lack of trust. Total lack of trust, where agreements are trashed by those who have brokered them. We saw in 2002 there was the coalition that took power under Kibaki after an MOU. The MOU was trashed, and it's like there were no consequences. Of course, there are consequences in subsequent years, especially in 2007 election, because that actually created what we saw in 2007. This mistrust is still with our politicians, and that actually will cause a fallout after the election. So in the pre-election period, I see a fallout as well, because after they have now agreed on the candidates who they're going to support, when they hit the ground, each of them has their supporters. How do you bring those supporters together?
And the demands as well.
And the demands of each side. We can be in a boardroom between us, the three of us here, and agree on something. But when you go out there, is it acceptable to the people? Also, after the elections, people must have been promised, we shall nominate you, we shall give you a position. When this coalition loses, what happens? Or we can say everyone has lost. Again, even if the coalition won, the interest keeps on shifting. More players are coming in, more interests have come into play.
On the prevailing circumstances.
And some people are left out, which again causes a fallout after the elections are over. In fact, sometimes I see that the greatest loser is the people, because the people could have had initially support for a particular political party. Like now we are having coalitions. When you say, for example, Wiper do not field a candidate here, and Wiper has its own members there who felt strongly that actually they have a candidate, a strong candidate. What happens after that? The party's aspirations and membership aspirations are actually dampened just right away, and that actually, for me, is an assault on democracy, on our democracy as a people in this country. We have seen also inconsistencies among these leaders, which again breeds this mistrust. When some were arguing, I would say, were arguing earlier that the decision to pick a candidate is not a boardroom affair. People cannot sit do an interview for somebody in an office and then say to us that now this is the presidential candidate. Let the people decide. Where are those, where are those principles of letting people decide? We suddenly forgot about that. The same people who are making those, who are shouting really with the top of their voices, are actually cheering as we speak. They're the ones who are chairing this boardroom event of seeking consensus among within the boardrooms among contestants. Where is Wanjiku? Where is Bosire? Where is Katisia?
Where is Wanjiku actually?
Where are they?
Then should it be that? But
and then you say
they should go to the grassroots. For example, if they want a consensus in Turkana County, for example, let all the candidates go to Turkana and have public participation.
You see, that is the bottom line. The bottom line. How do we arrive at this? Because my interest and your interest, where are people in the scheme of things? For me, that is a great question in democratic practice. Where are the people in the scheme of things? We have also relied on science. The parties are now saying we rely on science. We do opinion polls, objective opinion polls, and after that we can use the results and say if Bosire is the strongest. You guys, you can see Bosire has 45%, Katisia has 32, and Victor has 20. Why can't we cede the ground for Bosire to proceed so that we can secure the seat? Yes, science actually is important. We use science and technology in so many aspects of development, of decision making. Yes, it can be used. But ultimately, it's the people to make the decision. In fact, if we're in the same party, of course, we can see it's meaningless to go to elections, primaries. But if there are contentions, then primaries are always the best. We go down for universal suffrage. In fact, for me, that is, all these others, could be legal, they will be constitutional, but as a democracy, I think the best could be...
Because when you talk of democracy, when after all this is done, Wakili, you realize that people say that, apana, sisi hatujui hiyo maneno. You know, that person, kwa ground things are completely different.
Yes.
Do Kenyans really understand the whole options we have in picking candidate, universal suffrage, we go the consensus way, for example, what you're talking about right now. But do Kenyans have that real understanding of what consensus should be, or they still feel like consensus is only meant for the party officials and the party leaders to come and agree? But electorate, we still feel like we don't understand what this is all about. The civic education aspect.
Yes.
Yes.
I think I agree with you, Victor, that many Kenyans and the party members for this matter don't understand this whole idea of consensus. Because in my opinion, it is an informal way of arriving at a party's candidate for a particular seat. Because under the Political Parties Act, there are only two ways of getting a party candidate. Either the nominations, where we have now party members voting in candidates, or party delegates.
Yes.
Like now in this issue of consensus, I would actually advise many parties to avoid fallout, and for the people to feel that they have been, their views have been heard and respected. The parties should encourage now the delegate way of now choosing a party candidate. Like now in the issue of Omabe, for example, there were so many candidates who wanted to contest in the ODM primaries for governor.
Yes.
What happened? The leaders were called in a meeting by the party leader, and they were told Gladys, all of them now have to agree that Gladys Wanga is the party candidate. Others like now Kidero, and that's why they were saying, no, our people. Kidero was saying, I've received a lot of pressure from my people, people of Omabe. Yes. So this, even though we have to also understand that everyone cannot agree on a certain decision, and the party is actually allowed, by law, to come up with their own frameworks of choosing their candidate.
Yes.
Look at the issue of Kisumu, for example. The former MP for Kisumu Central, Dr. Obura, is saying, I was prepared to face off with Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. But now you can see ODM leaders saying, conducting a primary in Kisumu is a waste of resources. We see for sure, we know that yes, and Anyang' Nyong'o was given a direct ticket. So I think as much as the parties are allowed to encourage consensus, I think to avoid now the aspect of the party feeling the party is being dictatorial, I think they should also allow the people to choose their leader. Because let's agree that in many regions where these senior leaders come from, their parties determine who wins that particular seat. We know for sure in Nyanza, whoever takes the ticket of ODM will have a higher chance of winning, even though there have been situations where independent candidates and people within other affiliate parties have also been winning.
Even Migori County, Bad went to PDP.
Nyanza,
exactly.
Kisii also Nyanza also includes Kisii.
Yes.
Yeah, Kisii ODM never got a single MP in 2017.
Yes.
Not a single MP.
And that was because of it was a protest vote somehow.
More or less the same thing.
Yes.
Imposition of candidates.
And that is a big threat. What I wanted to ask you, the biggest threat out of all these consensus things. And I hope politicians have learnt their lesson from 2017, 2013, the chaotic, the men in black thing in Kasarani, and now the history is just about to repeat itself.
Yes.
Right? The threat?
The threat is these parties will have the risk of losing seats which they would have won if they picked the right candidate.
Yes.
Like for example, look at what happened to Wiper in Ukambani. We know Wiper is the dominant party in Ukambani. But Wiper was not able to produce the governor of Kitui and the governor of Machakos in 2017.
Yes.
They learned their lesson. The primaries which happened in 2017 in Kitui, for example, they were contested between the then incumbent governor Malombe and the then senator Musila. Now we are having a similar situation still in Ukambani, and some people are saying, we know for sure, like in Kitui, some people are saying, let's give Malombe a ticket, we know for sure he will win. And the way the guy was saying, opinion polls have been conducted by some of these parties,
and I'm winning.
And they say, according to this opinion poll, so and so is winning. Why can't we give them a direct ticket? At that point, you see the party, because the party's interest is to win these seats. So the party must come up with a good framework of ensuring that there's no fallout. Because if somebody knows for sure, even if we go for this nomination, I know I will be denied this ticket, somebody will quickly go independent. And some people, as they go for these nominations, they're having a hidden card, independent card.
It's known, actually.
Yes, it is known. Yes. Yeah, so I think, and I agree with Daktari that the problem with Kenyan politics is that agreements are not kept. And we were discussing with Daktari when we went on break, and we observed that it is only Azimio One Kenya which has submitted their coalition agreement with the regional political parties.
Right.
What about the other coalitions?
Actually, even saying that even in Parliament, the Kenya Kwanza is not even recognized in Parliament because it doesn't have, it's not yet registered.
Yes.
All the documents they register political parties. But then, the threat, Daktari, because when you talk of Kisii, Kisii is part of Nyanza province, so to speak. But when you look at the only member of Parliament, the only member was only Governor Ongwae. And that was it.
That was it. Reason was people felt that they were wrapped in the wrong way by the party at that time, because actually not ODM alone, but most parties did not. Actually, there was no internal democracy, particularly in relation to nomination.
Yes.
In fact, we had that problem. I worked with political parties at that time, and I know. And you see the same thing. Political party leaders, as they are doing this now, they are looking for loyalists. They are looking for loyalists, most entirely, first and foremost.
Yes.
They are looking for people who will be loyal to them. You understand what happened with Jubilee? Yeah, people were, and others were silenced. They were told you cannot stand. And we can see the same thing playing now. 2017, what we are seeing playing, particularly in some regions like in the central, some politicians influenced the nominations to have loyalists on their side. The same game is playing now.
Yes.
That we must secure tickets for certain people, for loyalists. Kiambu negotiations that are going on. I guess ultimately they're going to come up with how do we ensure maybe Babayao should come back or something like that. The former formations are coming back. So that is a major upset to democracy in our country. In Kisii, that is what happened. People just voted for individuals. They went,
much as they voted for Raila Odinga, but they did not vote for individual parties.
Parties.
Yes.
Parties. Actually, and again, Victor...
It was under NASA then.
Yes.
Right.
And again, Victor, the problem then, when you look at the entire scenario, is that we're weakening political parties. And we're also weakening our democracy. Because democracy should grow. The tenets of democracy should grow. If people are the center of democratic practice, it means that political parties should actually always involve the people.
Yes.
A good practice should be there. How are the primaries organized? How are we developing structures? In fact, I could say we are postponing a very important activity that would have strengthened our political parties. When shall we develop mechanisms for party internal democracy, including developing capacity to be able to run our own elections, primaries? The amendment, the Amendment Act, Political Parties Amendment Act, actually brought the issue or strengthened the idea that members of political parties nominate those candidates who represent political parties in various positions. That in itself is going the right way, is something good to do. Then political parties should develop mechanisms. Sometimes I see it's like, logistics, costs, and all these things.
And loyalty.
Loyalty then takes over. It's easier. In fact, for politicians, it's easier to negotiate these things than to subject people to the ballot.
Do Wananchi understand the term loyalty? They do.
They don't understand loyalty. Even if you told them, this candidate, of course they understand when they say they gave that one because as a friend of, but still of the governor, the friend of the
grant.
And ultimately they are compelled in any way to walk into the polling station and vote for these people. But I think we must demonstrate that actually democracy works in our country, and demonstrate commitment to grow our democracy by ensuring that internal party democracy works. And one of them is to have free and fair elections, which now will trickle down or will trickle up, whichever way or move up, into the national politics, that when we have national elections, again, we entrust the people to make a decision. We stop interfering with the processes to win, and allow the people to make a decision, rather than to think the winner take all system, or I must win mentality in most of our politicians, which have plunged our country into chaos in the past.
Wakili, you know, what's the whole essence of having consensus then? Because with respect to different political parties, different regions, and ODM actually said that there's that issue of zoning, all right, which again is zoning is coming. We also have the issue of consensus, and Raila says that there's some sense of revolt amid that claim that there's some issue of zoning which is also coming up. When you have got zoning and consensus taking place at this crucial moment, you could imagine the number of voters will be locked out. We saw some chaos in Mombasa, who said that, you know, some polling stations were moved from point A and moved to point B. Because in this particular region, we don't have enough kits, we don't have enough resources, and we have a very small number of members who are supposed to be voting, so they move it to a different region. But the question is now, when you have zoning and consensus, the issue of fallout is looming, and it's a big threat. And do you really think that the political party leaders are aware of that?
Yes, the political party leaders are fully aware of this looming fallout.
But they're still going for it anyway.
Yeah, because there are several factors which are considered by parties when they are giving tickets. And let me start with your question, which you asked about whether the Wananchi know the meaning of consensus and party loyalty. You know, party loyalty to many people is an assumption or the perception that so and so as already is a member of is in the kitchen cabinet of this party, and already according to us he has already gotten the ticket. Whoever goes against him or her will just be wasting their time. And you have seen many parties, Wiper, ODM, Jubilee, giving so many direct nominations. You have seen in some places like a big county like Makueni, and we know Wiper is a dominant party. People fear to go against the Senator Mutula Jr., for example, and he was given a direct ticket, in a place where I'm sure many people would have wanted to participate in that particular nomination, but they know, hey, this person has been very loyal to the party. So the candidates will fear. Maybe the Wananchi on the ground have their own person, but you see the party, since now the other opponents are fearing that this particular one will be given the ticket, they run away.
Right.
Yeah. So that is the issue which now affects many aspirants in very many positions. But now coming to the issue of zoning and issue of consensus, and you have seen the Azimio One Kenya coalition. I think there was a meeting after the fourth leg threatened to move out, because this issue of zoning was not clearly spelled out. It is now after that meeting between Raila and these leaders of this fourth leg, after that meeting is when they issued another statement. And they said the party will not zone any particular region. Every party has the right to field a candidate. They also raised the issue of a running mate, for example, and they said no, all these affiliated parties will participate in agreeing on a running mate. Now,
because Alfred Mutua said that they were not consulted, they just learned it on the media.
Exactly. And now failure to ensure that there is proper consensus is where now you see many parties threatening to leave. You saw Alfred Mutua threatening to leave In Kenya Kwanza, you saw when there was a failure to ensure proper consensus between Waiguru and Ngirishi. Ngirishi had to leave. Initially, she went to independent, then later she joined Jubilee, because she foresaw a situation whereby already she can know in many of these parties, aspirants just look at the body language of the party leader. And when the party leader is speaking, where does he shift his attention? If you see Raila, for example, is shifting, like in Kenya Kwanza, Ngirishi saw Ruto is shifting his attention to Waiguru. She said, in this situation, I don't see
I'm not safe.
I'm not safe, and there will not be a genuine consensus. So I think it is a duty of party officials, and especially the party leaders, to ensure that these consensus are conducted in a fair manner, whereby all the interested aspirants come to the table. They either negotiate and and as you were saying, some people will say, my people are pressurizing me, like in Meru, for example, in other areas, you see, I come from this region. Some people are saying, there's no way a senator can come from this region and a governor from the same region.
Clanism.
Exactly. It happens a lot in Northeastern, for example. And the party has to consider all those things. Also the issues of loyalty. These parties are also funded by some of these people. And you see the issue of nomination most of the time. Whereas the party has collected nomination fees from the aspirants, sometimes it may not be enough. You have seen issues where the party now has to reduce the nomination fee to encourage members to participate. Now, this issue of nomination is very expensive. Like I saw UDA saying that it will cost them 500 million to conduct the nomination.
They have to hire a lot of personnel.
And sometimes the National Elections Board of these parties has to make good use of the aspirants. Maybe in logistical operations during the nominations, maybe one of the prominent aspirants will give vehicles, which will do that. Others will also, some strong aspirants will make sure that their people are clerks during nomination. And sometimes these nominations are not free and fair. At some point, I think IBC was volunteering to participate, to be conducting the nominations. But of course, the same was opposed by these parties. Because no, you can't choose their candidate in nomination, and also at the same time, it will be the same person choosing in the mini election. But now these parties, as I conclude, to avoid fallout, they must come up with proper mechanisms of ensuring that at least, even if not all interest, at least most of the interests of the aspirants
are taken care of.
Especially, they also have to consider the people on the grassroots. And then encourage them to look at the issue of delegates.
And that is my question, because, well, Dr. I might promise, the room is too big. All of us can fit. But Mwananchi will say, you ni yenu tu huko. For us, tutafit wapi? You get that question? So we can have a consensus. And whereas you say that, it's all the political players will come, sit at a boardroom, then agree. When one candidate is missing, two candidates, or aspirants are missing, then somebody will say that's not consensus, legally speaking.
Exactly.
Legally speaking, fine. But then now, the space for Mwananchi to have a voice. I'm told we are running out of time. We have like around 5 minutes, right? Yes.
The space of Mwananchi keeps on shrinking. It's being muzzled. I think under the pretext of expensive nominations and the pretext of taking care of certain interests. Why can't we let the people sort these things out?
Yes.
Because it will be easier. Now, for example, my brother here has talked about parties having it too expensive to do the nominations. But this is a 5-year period preparation that parties should do. Parties know we shall have nominations after 5 years. We can't raise funds to do these nominations properly. Instead, we are thinking of shortcuts, consensus, and all these things, denying people the chance to determine who is going to stand from even their own political party.
Yes.
I think it is, for me, it's a travesty in a sense that we keep on taking shortcuts as a people. Importantly, we consider clan. In fact, it's very important. Clan can be maybe an agreement among the people themselves.
Yes.
If we decide we are going to support this individual to represent certain clan interests. Let the people decide. Not someone else to say, yes, this clan should be represented, but again by this particular person.
Yes.
Why don't we let the people make a decision that in our clan we want to be represented?
Must have a voice.
Yes, so that the voice actually is not taken away. But I also agree that delegate system might perhaps be the closest. But again, you know, delegates should be elected. Some parties are as new, you know, as like 5 months old or 6, 7, 8 months old. When shall they do delegates? Say they elect delegates, or delegates again will be handpicked, handpicked by party elite, and again put forth as the people now to elect, to nominate candidates where there are issues. Again, does that really reflect a democratic practice? No, because we know you can influence the delegates more easily than actually you can influence the electorate, the masses voting in a primary. I want to say this, Victor.
Sure.
We have seen less and less objectivity in these boardroom activities of consensus, of trying to seek consensus. You know, when you have a party leader sitting in a consensus meeting, honestly, how would they be objective? How would that process be objective?
Yeah, because
there should be a board selected, whether of judges or whatever, from party membership, to be able to sit down and listen clearly and determine who is objectively who is going to represent if we can broker a serious consensus.
With the party leader being in that meeting,
party leader is also a candidate. You know, the party leader is also a candidate. He says, "Mi nataka huyu ndiye nitafanya naye kazi." Then how honestly will you be fair? In the loyalty issue now becomes really directly his own responsibility. This one is less loyal to me than this one, so he vouches for those that are loyal. Or also calculating not the interest of the people, but calculating the interest of his own votes. His own votes. Like now, why Sakaja, for instance, in Nairobi? Why Sakaja? To face off with another person, Luya, Timu Wanyonyi.
Yes.
Actually, on the
you
front
see,
page we have those issues for me. Are beyond, they're beyond the people. People will not reason that way. I don't think people would think that way. But we are making it complex so that perhaps we can sneak and win this election. The zoning issue you mentioned, zoning can't work. It cannot work. I think the ODM was right, or Kenya Kwanza, you know, not Kenya Kwanza, but Azimio la Umoja, you know, they decided, they made a right decision. Because how do you tell people that for example, in Nyanza, like my brother mentioned, Nyanza is seen as homogeneous from outside, but internally, Nyanza has its own dynamics. If you say that this is now a zone for ODM, you will be far from the truth. Where do the affiliate parties go? And again, we have seen the various layers of this process. Can say we agreed, all of us, we have one presidential candidate, for instance, from every coalition. We have Raila Amolo Odinga and Azimio la Umoja. Then that one is agreed. Maybe governor, people are agreed. But then you go down, again, people feel they should be let alone to make their decisions on who is senator, who is their women rep, who is their MP, who is their MCA. You cannot zone, because again, it's another process of muzzling the public and killing our democracy. We must give the people room to be able to make an impact.
Okay, all right. I'm told you're running out of time. In 1 minute, your word of advice to party leaders. You said that the party leader is also a candidate, so they should be wakai kando kidogo. What's your as your final remarks?
My advice to all these parties, and especially the party leaders, who mostly are perceived to be the owners of these parties, but I agree with Dr. Busire that they are also candidates in these parties, is that parties should have proper structures, and these structures must be functional, because some parties have structures which are not functional. You talk of a National Elections Board, which is there for formality. You talk of National Appeals Board, which is there for formality, because sometimes aspirants know that some decisions have already been made. And even if I go to the National Appeals Board, nothing will happen. I think Kenya we are developing, we are young in democracy, yeah, and we should prove to the people on the ground that their will be reflected
at the ballot. Right.
Issues of political party primaries, and the act is very clear. It is the party members who should participate. So for the parties to ensure that their members feel satisfied and they will not think of joining other political parties, they must give them a voice. Most of these national delegates conferences are conducted for formality.
Yes.
The resolutions which are passed there are usually decisions which have already been made by the party top organs.
Right.
So parties must ensure that they allow all the people to participate in the decision-making process. And my advice would be, wherever there are 2 or more aspirants for a particular seat, where clearly consensus is not working, then let them subject those aspirants for nomination. And after that, now the people will choose the person they want, and issues of fallout will be reduced.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Gentlemen, allow me to stop you at that particular point. I'm under pressure here. I don't want to be zoned from the studio.
Thank you.
All right. Wakili Kevin Katisia, who is an advocate of the High Court, quite instrumental here, as well as Dr. Richard Busire, University of Nairobi lecturers, political science, brilliant minds in studio. Okay. We've just served you some hot breakfast in terms of consensus. Let's take a break. Much more coming up after this.
Niache mimi na familia yangu tafadhali. Sitawahi kukusamehe mpaka kufa kwangu.
Dadako hatatuacha tuishi kwa amani.
Unawezaje kwenda kumuwafaza wakati wajua faza ndo tegemea lilonalolio peke yake?
Kwa kama ushatemwa usileteza ovu mimi hapa.
I give you a good lawyer akuwakilishe. What's the problem?
Mimi nitashinda vipi kesi wakili kama wewe utatoa ushahidi?
Ipo siku wakili utarudi ndani ya hii nyumba na hautanipata.
Mamaji, unaona ni menu.
Ikatai ni menu. Nani aliandika hii?
Ni mimi.
Okari! Oh my God, ameandika chapati badala ya chapati.
Hii siasa mnaongea si mzuri. It is very unhealthy kuongea siasa hiyo ya kubishana, ukane kama mnachukiana. Uchaguzi anakujanga naye anaenda.
Kitu nilikuwa nataka kukuuliza. Kuna vile unaweza nisaidia, nilikuwa nataka mkokoteni.
Mimi ndio nakuanga mkokoteni solution.
Unataka ikiwa void ya kukatakatiwa kachumbari, ama unataka iwe scrambled, ama iwe Spanish omelette.
an aspiring candidate in the upcoming general elections? Do you want your agenda and manifesto to reach your voters effectively? At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
Hii ni menu mama, unaona ni menu.
Ikatai ni menu. Nani aliandika hii?
Ni mimi.
Okari! Oh my God, ameandika chapati badala ya chapati.
Hii siasa mnaongea si mzuri. It is very unhealthy kuongea siasa hiyo ya kubishana, ukane kama mnachukiana. Uchaguzi anakujanga naye anaenda.
Kitu nilikuwa nataka kukuuliza. Kuna vile unaweza nisaidia, nilikuwa nataka mkokoteni.
Mimi ndio nakuanga mkokoteni solution.
Unataka ikiwa void ya kukatakatiwa kachumbari, ama unataka iwe scrambled, ama iwe Spanish omelette.
Welcome back to the program. Thank you for staying with us this far. But in case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. This is Good Morning Kenya, and I am Jane Wamboy. Remember, we'd love to know where you're watching us from today, so feel free to interact with us. Check in on our various social media platforms. The official hashtag we are using on Twitter is Good Morning Kenya. Our official station handle ever remains to be at KBC Channel 1 across all the social media platforms. My handle is at Jane Wamboy. We welcome you to share with us your thoughts in regards to this discussion that we are about to embark on our Family Check segment today. It is all about retirement. Do you have a plan for the retirement years? What next after you retire? Given the official retirement age in Kenya is 60 years, but from the age of 50, you can opt for early retirement. What plans do you have for that? Because looking at the Kenyan space, it has been noted that more and more Kenyans are becoming poorer after they retire. But why is this the situation? Today, we look to question this and understand where we are as a country and what you and I can both do to help prepare for our life after retirement. With us in studio to help with this conversation, we have three gentlemen who are going to be key in sharing more information about this particular discussion. To my immediate right, we have Ellen Dwiga, who is the chairman of Sauti Sacco and also a beneficiary at Kara. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you very much.
And next to him at the center, we have Ahmed Hussein, who is the chairman of the Kenya Association of Retired Officers. Good morning and welcome.
Morning to you. Thank you.
Karibu sana. All right. And right next to Ahmed Hussein, we have John Washira, who is the Secretary General at CARO. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us today. Now, again, if you have any questions or comments, or if you're just seeking clarification, we welcome you to share them with us. We'll be getting to them as and when that will be possible. So let me start with you, Ahmed Hussein. You are the chair of the Kenya Association of Retired Officers. For the benefit of our viewers, just tell us a bit about the association.
Kenya Association of Retired Officers was started in 1998 by retired public service officers to bring together the officers so that they could discuss their welfare and also come together and look at what is best for them in retirement. This was occasioned by the fact that retirees face a lot of problems upon retirement, and therefore this was meant to improve their welfare.
Yes.
And we have had a lot of things that have happened since then, and I must admit that CARO has had a lot of impact on retirees since that time.
All right. Now, let me come to you, Eli Ndwiga. You are the chairman of Sauti Sacco and also a beneficiary of CARO. Yes. But before you tell us a bit about your involvement in CARO, tell us a bit about Sauti Sacco.
Thank you very much, Jane. As the chairman of Sauti Sacco, I want to say I'm chairman of Sauti Sacco by virtue of having worked with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting those days. Sauti Sacco is a cooperative society for employees of the ministry, which was started for the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting then in 1972, so it means we are marking 50 years now. It has transitioned and people have moved to various ministries. Yes. So right now, I am the chairman, and mainly we draw our membership from Ministry of ICT and also Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. But we have members drawn from all over. We opened also our common bond, so we have members who are outside the common bond. So basically, it's to take care of those members under those organizations that were within the Ministry of ICT to help them to save. Yes. It was mobilizing money so that then you can be able to do great things with numbers. Collect money and then you are able to help one another in terms of all that. Yes.
Fantastic. Yes. Now let me come to you, John Washira. You know, as the Secretary General at CARO, the Kenya Association of Retired Officers, tell us a bit about your role in the organization.
Well, yes. As the chairman has mentioned, Kenya Association of Retired Officers was formed in 1997. At that time, when it was formed, I was still in the civil service, and I did not retire until 1999. So when I came out, I became a retiree. When I retired in 1999, I saw a lot of problems that the retirees were undergoing, particularly to do with the low pension levels. Their social standing was being eroded. And so I joined them to be able to work with them so that we can address the issues that the retirees were facing. At that time, you find that salary structures were very low. You know, the economy was doing very well.
Yes.
And it was not until 2005, after the NAC government came in, that there was a revival of the economy. Before then, the economy was almost stagnant. And therefore, the pension levels were very low, salaries were very low. And you know, pensions based on the salary one has, the last salary one draws, and of course the length of service.
Yes.
So the main problem that the retirees were encountering was to do with the low pension levels, stagnation of the pension, by the fact that there was no review at all. And so we kind of decided to address the issues with the then formed Salaries and the Remuneration Commission. So we prepared a memorandum to get them to see that the purpose of paying some of that pension is to enable that officer to sustain a standard of living, a reasonable standard of living.
Yes.
And so that once you retire, you don't become a disgrace in society by the kind of poverty into which you had kind of pushed into.
Yeah.
So the SRC listened to our complaint, they addressed the issues, and they saw the need to ensure that there will be no disparities between the pension levels which were pertaining to the old generation of retirees and the ones who are retiring currently with very high salaries. Because after the Knack government came in, the challenge of revival of the economy necessitated the hiring of high caliber manpower. And the only way the government could then attract those high caliber manpower was to improve the terms and conditions of service and hike the salaries to be able to attract those people from wherever they were.
Okay.
Therefore, since then, salaries have escalated, they have gone up, and therefore, pension that is done by those who retire now is very high compared to those who were there before. So that kind of disparity is very ugly and demoralizing to the old generation retirees.
Okay.
So we as Carol and we as Secretary General, we address the issues squarely with the agencies concerned. The Salaries Commission, they came up with definite recommendations. The Treasury were given the recommendations. His Excellency the President launched the recommendations so that we have a situation, we should have a situation where once you retire, the pension level or your pension should not depend on when you retired. It should rather depend squarely on the status you held at the time of retirement and the length of your service.
All right. Now, that brings me to the next aspect, and this is in line with the challenges that we are experiencing as a country when it comes to retirement. And I like the fact that you've brought in the whole aspect of, the salaries and the structures that were there prior to the changes that came in 2005, and particularly facing public employees. I'd like to hear from you, Ahmed. The situation then and after the changes that came in, and have they been affected in this day and time?
As Mr. Wachira has said, the low pensions affected the pensioners who are public servants, and it affects their dignity, affects their standing in society. And when the changes came, the new retirees started getting very good pensions.
Yes. Which were based on their salaries.
Based on their salaries.
Yes.
But these old retirees were left to take what they were earning before, and you will find a PS who retired in 1998 earning about 20,000 now, whereas a PS who retires today is earning about 300,000 shillings. So that disparity really creates a big problem. Now, the other problem that comes around with retirees when they retire is that the older you get, the more medical attention you require. You require very good medical cover. And when you are in the public service, you are entitled to a very good medical cover through NHIF.
Yes.
Once you retire, that medical cover comes to an end. And therefore you are left on your own with very meager pension uptake every month. So because of that, we realized that we needed to form the Kenya Association of Retired Officers and started a medical scheme, a medical cover in 2018, where CARO members join, pay for a medical cover negotiated with NHIF, enhanced, and that way then these people can be able to attend good hospitals, attend good treatment, and not depend on the UHC alone. Now this has its own issue because the pensions these people are earning is very low, and therefore the issue of family and friends come in. You will find most of the pensioners who are on the scheme, their medical cover is paid for by their children and their family members.
Out of pocket.
And that has effect on the family members also. Whereas these people have worked for the government 30 years, 35 years, and they were just left on their own to survive in the in the country, in the wilderness, I would say. So the cover assists those who can get support, but that does not mean that it covers all the retirees. The other retirees are suffering. We're under the UHC, and the older you get, the more medical attention you require.
Yes.
You become like an old car. You need a lot of repair, a lot of changes to your organs, to your system.
Yes.
And therefore, because of that, there was need for us to start. The most fundamental issue was the medical cover, because that is the biggest problem that faces retirees in this country.
All right. Now, before we get even further on that aspect of, medical expenses that do come after retirement, let me come to you, Ellen Dwiga. And, the other aspect or other challenge that we see in the country, we have many different entities that offer pension plans, but for some, they're very poor performing. And we've heard, from Ahmed, that people who are earning as little as 20,000 post-retirement. How is this a problem, and how can it be sorted out in one way or the other, looking at poor performing plans?
I think it is a serious challenge, and from where I sit, and being a SACCO chairman, I am dealing with the members who are suffering, and my heart pains when I see the kind of suffering they are going through. They want to come to the SACCO to be assisted, and because of a medical issue, there is their pension that has not been paid and all those kind of things, and I feel for them. I will want to look at it. There was a time I had an issue myself personally, because I'm a beneficiary here. When I retired, and I realized I was in the wilderness, and we were trying to look for money to send my wife to hospital, to India, for treatment. I don't have a cover that can take care of me. And then in the process, and because now it becomes a community issue, somebody in the Middle East asked, have you heard of Kenya Association of Retired Officers? Maybe they can help you. And I decided, let me go and find out. I went to Karo, and when I heard the story, I decided, let me pay the premium. And the premium was 100,000 per year, plus all that, and I had a cover of 2.5 million. A cover of 2.5 million, which of course I can't get from my other insurance companies. This is an NHIF cover negotiated, and for that I was able to take care of this need to go to India for treatment. And in fact, in addition, even the NHIF also, that cover even paid for the air ticket for her and the caretaker. And I come back and look at it and see. And this is what I've been asking. Do we have schemes that can take care of members? And can Karo assist members who are suffering? Because you get out of employment and you are alone. And then you are in the wilderness. I know there is something I've been trying to also talk to my members, because as a chairman of a SACCO, I wanted to see how the SACCO can also help them in terms of taking care, mitigating that, because I'm meeting them daily. I have had experience with some people who have been saving for their retirement. Because initially the issue was you could be in a SACCO, and when you leave employment you just collect your money and go. But I know there are people who have decided they are going to save money in the SACCO, not for purposes of borrowing loan, but for purposes of their plan later. Because you never know what will happen with your employer. You don't know what will happen with your pension. So you accumulate money. And I've seen people who have accumulated more money, and for example, somebody had accumulated 10 million shillings. He decided to take this 10 million and they decided to put it in a fund where they are giving 25%. With a 25% return dividends, it means you get about 2.5 million per year. Spread it is 200,000. That will be able to take care of your premium, to take care of your medical bills. Because as they are saying, medical is very key. I am out there, I have seen members in the cooperative. I'm a Linda also in Nairobi with other cooperative Lindas, where we have a forum where we meet. And today we are saying there needs to be an issue, not only looking at these pension fund managers, but even on a personal level. How can you invest so that you take care of your retirement life after that? Because
again, going to a proper performing plan.
A performing plan, even at a personal level, even without looking at the other guys. Sometimes the problem is we have very good salaries that we can be able to spare, but then we don't think about tomorrow. We are thinking about today, but you can be advised and think about tomorrow and invest it. Karo, the problem we have is I leave employment, and my little pension, I cannot use it to do a medical cover. For example, you're taking about 20,000. This 20,000 which you are talking about, if I take a cover how do I pay for that cover now?
It's not
so
practical.
that becomes an issue again.
Yes, Ahmed.
Yes, I think what Eli has said is very important, but the more important thing is there are many public servants who are retiring. Thousands every year, every month. And we have been encouraging them, or we want to encourage them to join CARO so that they have a continuity of their medical cover with NHIF. I tell you, outside, I will repeat again and again that the biggest issue that faces retirees is medical. And you will only know about medical when you get sick, and members of your family and your relatives and your friends have to come together to fundraise. But if you take a cover that takes care of your medical needs, you don't need to bother the entire community, the family. And two, sometimes it's an emergency.
Yes.
You can imagine somebody has just had an attack, and you take him to hospital and you are asked to put a deposit of 300,000. That moment, that now becomes an issue. The hospital will not admit this person, and you know how expensive our hospitals are. So the most important thing, two things here, that people who are retiring must plan for their retirement and prepare, invest in what they will do during retirement. Number two, worry about their medical cover.
Yes.
That those two issues must be done. And when you're in the public service, sometimes you don't realize that you're retiring.
Until you retire.
Until you retire. And when you retire,
yes,
then the government that has been with you, that you have been working for the last 30 years, just disconnects. You know, it disconnects. And you are left on your own.
Yeah.
And therefore, the preparation for retirement is very, very critical. And I think government must invest in that. But anybody who is about to retire, medical. Think medical first, think about your medical care, and third, think about your medical care.
All right. Medical care, medical care, medical care.
Yeah.
Now that brings me to the other challenge that we also see retirees facing. Number one, medical care coming at the top of the list. But we're also living in a time where there's some retirees who are outliving the plans that they maybe would have already had in play. How is this a problem, and how can it be addressed, and especially looking at what CARO is doing? Let me hear from you, John.
I think what you are saying as CARO is that an officer, when he's in the service, he draws a certain salary, and then the pension is calculated with a certain formula. What he is urging or sort of lobbying the government is that when somebody has been paid that pension, the purchasing power of that pension should be maintained so that as inflation bites into the purchasing power of that pension, there should be adjustment for the cost of living. So the beauty and the need for members to join CARO is that they have a forum, they have a body which is negotiating with the government to ensure that depending on the level of inflation, the pension is accordingly adjusted to ensure that the purchasing power is not eroded.
Yes.
But of course, the other aspect is that one must learn to live within his own means. That's very, very crucial. And I think the government has come up with is coming up with a policy of preparing a post-retirement medical cover. I think they have negotiated, the Honorable Branch has negotiated with the government, and it's almost being rolled out.
Yeah.
That would be a very, very important area of assistance to the retirees, so that once you are serving or leaving the service, you don't feel like you are neglected.
Yes.
In other words, the need for health care is continuous. It does not cease on your retirement.
Okay.
That is the most important thing. So I think I would like to urge anybody who's in the service on retirement, join a group like CARO, there we are for them, so that together we can dialogue and discuss, share problems, and be able to, as a group, negotiate with the government, the employer, and the various other agencies, the public corporations, to improve the quality and the standard of living for the retirees, so that their dignity is maintained. It should not be a situation where, when you are told you have to retire, when you get that notice that you are due your retirement age in 6 months' time, you start panicking because you view pension as as kind of a lost you. You should retire with dignity, embrace it. After you have served your country for so many years, the system should be able to put in place mechanism where that dignity of the person is maintained.
Okay, now let me come to you, Ellie. Looking at the whole question of, again, maintaining a life with dignity post-retirement, there comes in the question of debt, and we know debt becomes a big problem for people if you don't manage it properly over the course of the time that you are working. How does debt affect one's life after retirement?
Debt, you know, many times we advise that when you retire, make sure you don't have debt. But sometimes debt is something that you have to live with, but then know how to manage it. Because sometimes I will want to talk of a practical case here where you have taken debt and you think you will be paying it through your pension after retirement. Somewhere along the line, the retirement does not come. And so, how do you pay? It starts now getting back to you. That health we are talking about becomes an issue. If it were possible for people to live without debt, it would be good. But then, it is not possible to live without debt.
It's a beautiful reality to wish for.
Yeah, wishful thinking, because we need to, we have to. But how we manage the debt, and that's why I was bringing the issue of mitigating the areas where you think it's risky. For us in the movement, we are trying to see how to help these people as they get out. So our retirees as they get out, so that when they come out here, the SACCO movement helps them to live a decent life. And that is why we are telling them, even when you retire, don't withdraw from the SACCO. Yeah? Let's look for a way where you retain your membership in the SACCO, because this one will help you. And even before you retire, can we walk this journey with you to tell you that you can be able to start saving? Save for 5 years in a plan that you are going now to take care of. Because for those who are out, there is that which we have seen. So when you are out there, these are the challenges that you are going to face. And when you start doing this, putting this money here, then it will take care of your small issues, and then you'll be able to handle. So you are able to mitigate on the debts now.
Yes, you live a decent life.
I think
now, before you get to add on to that, we have to take a very quick station break, but we welcome you to keep sharing with us your thoughts. We will be addressing them as we come back from this commercial break. Do stay with us.
Thank you.
You expect me to call you Dad? You want me to pretend that nothing happened?
No, I don't. If I were you, I wouldn't hesitate to tell her who you are, Antonio.
My mother married you against her will because my grandparents pressured her.
No, that is not true.
I'm having your baby, Fabricio.
Your brother Daniel is alive.
What?
Lying heart. Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición. And I'm never coming back again. I'm forever leaving you. I never wanna see you again. I'm sorry. L-O-V.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is all about retirement and planning for retirement. Why is it that we're seeing so many people still languish in poverty post-retirement, and yet they had a very fruitful, at least 40 to 30 years of working. But post-retirement, life takes a complete 180-degree change. With us in studio, we have Ahmed Hussein, who is the chair of the Kenya Association of Retired Officers. We also have Eileen Dwega, who is the chairman of Sauti Sacco and a beneficiary at Caro, as well as John Washira, who is the secretary general at Caro. Now, before the break, we were looking at the aspect of debt, and I'd like to come to you, Ahmed, looking at the impact of debt on pension post-retirement, and those who actually, count on pension to pay off some of the debts that they had accumulated.
First, upon retirement, the pension you earn is reduced salary, about 50-60% of your salary, with all the allowances gone. And therefore, the more you live on that pension and the cost of living goes up, your pension remains static. The figure doesn't change so much. Every 2 years, you get about 3%, which started recently. Now, investing and getting into debt when you are on retirement and when you need to maintain your standard of living is an issue I would encourage members who are retiring not to get into, because your income is not expanding, your income is not increasing.
Yes.
Your need for support services, social, medical,
increase
is getting higher every day. So that I would encourage, and I would ask any member who is retiring to avoid issues of debt as much as possible. However, if that upon retirement, the first few years maybe, but if we have people who have retired as members of Caro about 35 years ago. Good thing is the retirees are not dying so soon these days. Many of them are living to 80 to 90. And this is as a result of the increased standard of living, proper health care. And therefore, to maintain that, I think there is need to invest more, not only in health, but in also social welfare, to engage, to be relevant to society. Because the older you get, the more contact you have with people. And more importantly, again, upon retirement, it's like you stop a certain way of living, certain group of people you have been interacting with, all your telephone lines will change, and therefore this is the time when you need to live a new life, a life where you interact. And you can go back to your rural area if you come from Wajir or you come from Busia and you have been working in Nairobi or Mombasa for the last 30 years. When you go back home, you are a stranger. So you need an environment where you can live, an environment where you can interact with the people, and you need to live as close to the way you lived before. And this is why preparing and planning for retirement is very critical. And two, I think the government, which is the main employer of the people who are retiring, must think of retirement. The people who are in the government don't know what is waiting for them. They don't know once they get out of that office, the tea on the table, the money for telephone, the allowances, all those things come to an end, and you'll be left on your own, and your phone will stop ringing immediately you leave that office. And therefore, I would urge also those who are still in the public service to prepare themselves and work on how to improve the welfare and services for retirement. I wish to say, as part of what Mr. Washira has said, we have been talking to the Ministry of Public Service. We have been agitating for the medical cover. Although we have the private medical cover, most of the retirees cannot afford. And therefore, the government now has worked together with us on a post-retirement medical scheme. The policy is ready. The processes are ready. They are now working on the actuarial study, so that maybe by early next year, all retirees can transit into that. And that is now what will change the face and the welfare of people who are retiring from the public service. But as it is now, the situation is not good. And whether you are a PS or whether you are the lowest person in the cadre, once you get out, life is different. it's like moving out of enclosure to the open. I think it's just like recently I was seeing some wild animals, elephants were brought from the UK, and they were caged in a sanctuary, and now they are being released into the wild. And I want to tell public service and public servants, it's like you'll be released into the wild when you leave the public service.
You never know until
and they are already
you get
released,
there.
by the way. And in fact, I think the best, looking at what my chair is saying,
Yes.
I think he is addressing more those who are currently in service. Now, what about the practical aspect? Those who have now exited and they are out there and they are suffering. I have them as members.
Yes.
Yeah, how do you deal with
I
this?
think we need to start processes of educating people.
Yes, creating more
People
awareness.
need a lot of advocacy, a lot of change.
Yes.
People need to hear and feel and see what is waiting for them. And old age is not only affecting former public service, it also affects the rest of the Kenyan people.
Okay.
And in the global community, especially in the first world and Europe and America, Australia, when you get old, you have privileges.
Yes.
You have privileges. You have medical cover. You have reduced cost when you go to the supermarket. When you board the pass, you pay less. Why? Because you have made a contribution. But in Kenya, I say it again and I will say it, you are left on your own, and you pay like the 30-year-old engineer pays for his services.
We'll be coming to the policies that we have in our country around such matters. But let me hear from you, John, looking at that aspect of debt and also just our Kenyan space and preparing for retirement.
I think my own take on this matter is that, it's the whole process of life and the philosophy one has. You see, people must appreciate that really we come to this world to serve. God, our creator, brings us into this world so that we can be of use and contribute to the welfare of other people. And in that process, we are also taken care of. So, particularly in the public service, it is the area where one can be able to give a lot to the community. Not necessarily for personal gain, but basically for that sense of satisfaction that you are rendering useful service to your community.
Yes.
Personally, I feel that after I served the Kenya government, or my country for 36 years, I feel pride. And many people feel proud for what they contributed. So I think we must educate our people that life, when you begin it, is a process. And, as you go along, as you age, you must change your thinking. So that after a certain age, maybe 45, you must now see the graph is not really shooting up. You're now either leveling or starting to go down, and moderate your thinking and your ambitions and your aspirations, so that by the time you retire, you should have matured enough to realize that life is not just a struggle. You must reach a point of arriving, taking stock of what you have done for your country, not so much for yourself, so that you can gain peace of mind, to feel that I've done my bit, and going into debt, which are far beyond or well outside your means, is not wise. Because you see, you will suffer it, or you make your family's members, handicapped. So I think it's a question of retirees accepting that as they go along the graph of life, you must reach a point where striving must stop, and you feel that you are arriving. You must develop means of achieving peace of mind, not necessarily by living a life that is well beyond your means, because of a disturbed ego. Accept yourself the way you are, trying to better yourself, and the sense of having served your people is fulfilling enough, in my view. Not necessarily what you acquire or what you artificially appear. I think that's what's killing our people.
All right.
You want to appear like you have no problem, accept the problem.
Yet, there's a very big problem. And that brings me to the aspect of another challenge that we are seeing, and especially for the retired population, is the rising cost of living. We're living in a time where every day you hear there's a revised price for a certain commodity, a certain entity has changed their prices, but yet the retired population are also facing the same cost of living. How is this a challenge, and how would you say, as Caro, you are looking to address this, and what maybe steps you're taking? Let me hear from you, Ahmed.
Thank you. I think to begin with, the cost of living adjustments that are taking place every day, the rising costs, the inflation affects that meager pension that people are getting, which is not rising with the cost of living.
Sadly.
Yeah, traditionally and even in the world, when salaries of public servants are adjusted, salaries of retirees' pensions are supposed to be adjusted. In Kenya, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And therefore, it keeps on eroding the little one is getting. And that is something that really, really has an effect on the retirees. You can imagine the cost of fuel just changed 10 years ago from 70 shillings to 140 today.
Yes.
And somebody who was earning 10,000 10 years ago is earning 10,000 today. And therefore, you have to use that 10,000 to meet the cost of your living. And that is why the issue of living in dignity, the issue of sustaining your life, the issue of taking care of yourself within this environment is very, very critical.
Yes.
And a few things happen in our environment, Jane. You see, today we're having elections in this country. People are talking of building roads. They're talking of improving schools. They are talk about everything, even giving people money. But nobody is talking about what they will do for the elderly. Nil. And they are voters, and there are very many. There are about 4 or 5 million Kenyans who are above the age of 65, 70. And therefore, you see, where do you put your emphasis in the social welfare of the country? Where do you put it? And two, what is it? I mean, let me put it in another way. As a country, we must see that the cost of living adjustment must affect everybody, and therefore their incomes need to be adjusted.
Yes.
If we don't do that, you are leaving a lot of people by the wayside. It means the number of people who are falling into poverty, not only the ones who have retired, but the others, but every day is increasing. And therefore, maybe over 50% of our Kenyan population today are living below the poverty line. And that should not be the case.
And maybe in this case, because now I'm on the other side of beneficiaries, ask Caro, in this case then what are they doing to agitate for that? so that there is a bit
You see, we have had a lot of engagement with different government agencies. We've had engagement with Parliament. We had engagement with the Ministry of Public Service. We had engagement with Treasury. We had engagement with the Ministry of the one that deals with social security. In all of them, trying to see how best they can respond to matters elderly, the older people, the retirees. And we are getting some responses. One of them being the post-retirement medical scheme. The other being where SRC approved some improvement of the pension of the people who retired between 1995 to 2005, 1991 and 2005. And that has not been effected. But Treasury has been asked by Parliament to implement that before the end of this financial year. So we are really trying and putting this medical cover as a stopgap, to help people live and attain medical cover. So that awareness, that follow-up with ministries and organizations is some of the things we are trying to put in place to ensure that people elderly live in dignity.
Absolutely, because that is the very big challenge that we see so many of the elderly. And for some of them, they even have relatives who are living, a decent life, but the elderly have been forgotten, have been left to languish in poverty. And that brings me to now the next aspects of, looking at the systems that you have in place as an organization to ensure that actually this pension of this particular retiree is protected from those that might try to take advantage of them, because we have seen people being conned out of their pensions by family members or people who know them. How is this an aspect that maybe you can or have been trying to make sure that the beneficiary is the one who gets the pension funds to sustain them through life? Let me hear from you, John.
The law is very clear on the pension is not assignable. There's that law or provision under the Pensions Act that you cannot, for instance, if you go to take a loan and you pledge your pension, when you default to pay that loan, you cannot come and attach that pension. It's not assignable. Mm-hmm. So to that extent, pension is protected. But that apart, I think what is most important is that with the low pension levels, you see, like in our social settings, with these pandemics, HIV, this kind of thing, you find some of us grandparents taking care of some of the grandchildren. Mm. So to that extent, maybe the pension, although it's supposed to be enjoyed or sort of to sustain the welfare of that retiree, it is kind of to some extent eroded, mm-hmm. or sort of interfered with by the demands of the social structures that there are. So I think the Ministry of Social Protection has come up with this issue of Inua Jamii. And there was the issue that because you draw a pension, you should not get benefit from the Inua Jamii. Mm. But what you are saying is that unless the pension levels are hiked so well, so that somebody does not feel the need to go and beg for that Inua Jamii, then that retiree who gets a very low pension, maybe as low as 4,000 or even less, should be equally entitled to the Inua Jamii. Because you see, as I said, in the social settings at home, yes, you find some of these grandchildren, they look to the grandfather,
a dependent,
and you can't. The way we have grown up, you cannot see them suffer.
Yes,
you'd rather suffer than they suffer. Mm-hmm.
And at Caro, are there plans that actually extend to the dependents in the case, in a case where maybe the member may be deceased? Are there benefits that spill over to the direct dependents?
Yes, those who are in the scheme. Mm-hmm. Once the beneficiary or the main principal contributor passes on, yes, they are entitled to an expense, a last expense, mm-hmm, of about 100,000, which is given to the family by NHIF, and therefore that way then you are giving them something to support them in the short term. But coming back to the issue of protecting the pension, I want to say that in Kenya the pension laws protect pensions. Pensions go to the person, and you can't commit it to any debt. Nobody can subtract or from the pension. The amount remains fixed, and you are the only one who can draw it. Mm-hmm. And therefore it is protected from the vagaries of people coming to infringe on it. And I think that is one beautiful thing about the Pensions Act, that the money goes to the pensioner, to his account, and it's only when he's dead that, or she is passed on, that happens. But also to add to that is where the main beneficiary of the pension passes on, the spouse is entitled to continue drawing some benefit for some 5 years, yeah, so that it does not stop.
Not cut off at that
immediately. It's not cut off immediately. Okay. And I think that helps mitigate the problems the family would face. And therefore, maybe what people face upon retirement and old age, when you get to your 80s and 90s, is that the other properties you had, land, housing, these are the things now where people can, and it may not be easy to know when an old man in Ishaweri is being conned by his sons against, from his land and his properties and what have you. And that is something I think the government should, through social protection and social support systems, ensure that those people feel protected. Okay. Even
post-retirement.
they have retired or even in their old age. You know, we are talking of retirement, yes. These are people who are in the public service. But alongside these people, there are their age mates who are farmers, cattle herders, who have also not active anymore and who require this kind of services. And that's why this issue of social protection should be such that it is given to people. And there are countries in Africa which pays social protection to the elderly. If you're in South Africa and you get to 70, unless you don't want it, you are entitled to social protection, a certain amount of money per month. In Namibia, it's a very interesting one, where you get that money, you keep getting the welfare money. When you pass on, the government will pay for your burial. And the idea is to stop the benefit somebody was getting, and the government pays for the burial. So what Kenya needs is the president formed, I think, something for the elderly in one of the ministries. But that should benefit from the people who are outside, who understand where the shoe pinches. Yeah? So we need policies, laws, and programs that take care of the elderly in the country. This is what is lacking in Kenya. And even if they are there on paper.
Jane, you asked the chairman about the benefits to the family, and he talked about the 100,000 that is given for the funeral. Yes. You see, I will tell you, where we deal with these retirees, people who retire sometimes, you may think that they don't have small families. So I know people who have retired and they have children who are still in primary school. Yes. So in this case, what you do then, when you're taking a premium, you are taking a cover for all of them, so that it also takes care of them in case you go. So the benefits remain. And you are taking a cover. For example, me, if I'm alone, I'm taking a cover for myself and myself alone. When I go, I'm gone. I'm not a burden to the others. But if I have a family, then I need to also take care of them. Maybe what Carol should tell us also is, what is it do I need to become a member, and how do I become a member, and what are those benefits like, what are the covers like, so that in case I decided I want to take care of these children. Because now the Secretary General talked about the people who are dependent. Yes. How do you help them? Because now if they are looking at you, you are the person who is going to take care of their medical cover when you are also retired, and then it becomes a big challenge.
It becomes a big
challenge.
I think we can just pick it up at that point. Let's hear from John.
I think basically the most important thing is to address the issue in its proper context. The government really is committed. I think it is in the public interest to have universal health care. So that, the idea here is that, like the chairman was saying, even with the insurance cover they have negotiated the NHIF, quite a lot of our retirees cannot afford it.
Yes.
And therefore the government should come up with a program whereby the rates are subsidized. Heavily subsidized, so that a lot more of our retirees can be able to join at rates they can afford, and not burdening their own children to take care of them.
Okay.
So I think that when it comes to the dependents, like the children of your children, there should be that universal health care cover, not necessarily that they become a burden to you, but the state should own up to those kind of problems.
If anything, you would be complementing the benefits.
So that you only complement by way of, but basically it's a state problem.
Okay.
Healthcare, good health is a state problem.
All right.
And therefore the question is, if somebody wants, if somebody was a senior officer in the government, where he was taken care of by, reasonably good insurance cover, when he retires, it should not be a situation where he is left out onto his own to start now lobbying for insurance cover here and there.
All right, now my directors tell me we are almost out of time, and I think it would be rightful for you to just address that aspect of looking at Carol. How can somebody join? Is there an age limit, or what are the requirements that one needs to be a member of Carol? Very briefly.
Thank you. any retiree from the public service, whether he retired many years ago or he retired yesterday, can join KARO upon production of a document to show the person retired. Once you join, you just pay 1,000 to become a member, and you bring, if you are married, you come with your necessary documents, marriage certificate,
to verify
your ID card, photograph, and you join. Once you have joined, then from there you can join the scheme. You can join the scheme, and the scheme has several categories. There's one, KARO 1, KARO 2, KARO 3, KARO 4, KARO 5. Each one of them has a different premium, and the premiums can be available to all the people who join KARO. But the most important thing is to ask members of the public service, even the people in the parastatals like yourselves here, the banks that belong to the state, and parastatals, all of them can become members of KARO once they retire. And that helps. It improves on the universal health care. But coming back to the, what do you call, the extended family system, you know, even under the normal insurance, it does not take care of the extended family system. It takes care of the immediate nuclear family. So I think there is need for all of us to see how best to register the extended family, the grandchildren, and those people who live with us, or our parents who are still very old, in the universal health care or any other scheme that takes it. But what makes it even more difficult, Jane, is that when you reach 70 or thereabout, most of the private insurance covers are shy to deal with you. They think you are on your deathbed. But I can tell you, the average age of the members in KARO is about 74 years of age, meaning most of our members are in their 90s and in their 80s. Yeah, and therefore, the thing is, the insurance regulatory authority must look at the insurance environment in this country, that it should be friendly to everybody, regardless of the age.
All right.
This is the thing I would like to say. The insurance regulatory authority should look at insurance premium covers to take care of all people from 1 year old to 90-year-old, and the government must also take care of these people. And finally, our people aspiring for political office, there's guys who want to become the president. If they want our votes,
what plans do they have?
Then they have to do something and talk about the elderly. Thank you.
Fantastic. And again, this is a call to action message also to the Ministry of Public Service, Gender, Senior Citizen Affairs and Special Programs when it comes to addressing concerns that heavily touch on the elderly and the retired in our country. A lot needs to be done. Now, due to the interest of time, we have to pause at that particular point. We are completely out of time, but of course, this is not a one-off discussion. We'll be making time for more and more of these discussions to just make sure that they're getting the attention that they need. But we have been speaking with Eli Dwiga, who is to my immediate right, who is the chairman of Sauti Sacco and a beneficiary at KARO. At the center, we have Ahmed Hussein, who is the chairman of KARO, that is the Kenya Association of Retired Officers. And to my extreme right, we have John Washira, who is the Secretary General at KARO. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for
calling on all employees to join KARO so that we can agitate our interests.
There we go. And at that point, we want to call it a program. Thank you so much for being with us. Be sure to join us again tomorrow morning. But for now, it is goodbye. My name is Jane Wamboy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hii ni Mitikasi leo, makala kutoka BBC yaliyomo. Tunaangazia umuhimu wa fedha zinazotumwa kutoka mataifa ya nje na faida zake kwa biashara. Baadaye shirika la ndege la Ethiopia lateua afisa mkuu mtendaji mpya. Kisha je, upi mustakabali wa shirika la reli Afrika Kusini? Mubashara kutoka Nairobi, Kenya, usibanduke. Natumai buheri wa afya unapotutegea. Karibu katika habari za biashara zinazokuhusu, uchambuzi wa kina na mahojiano. Jina langu mie Hamida Abubakar. Tuanze na masuala ya fedha, ambapo fedha zinazotumwa kutoka mataifa ya nje zinatoa unafuu wa maisha kwa mamilioni ya watu barani Afrika. Mtiririko wa fedha hizo kwa mataifa ya kipato cha chini na cha kati ilifikia dola bilioni 550 mwaka 2019 na kupita uwekezaji wa moja kwa moja wa kigeni pamoja na usaidizi rasmi wa maendeleo. Kwa jumla, fedha zinazotumwa kwa nchi za kusini mwa jangwa la Sahara zilipungua kwa kiasi hadi 14.1 mwaka 2020, lakini ikaongezeka kwa 6.2 ikiwa ni dola bilioni 45 mwaka 2021. Hii ni kulingana na Benki ya Dunia. Ethiopia inashikilia nafasi ya 10 kama wapokeaji wa fedha za kigeni kusini mwa jangwa la Sahara. Benki Kuu ya Ethiopia inasema nchi hiyo ni ya 5 kwa ukubwa wa kupokea fedha hizo baada ya Senegal, Kenya na Nigeria. Kwa sasa kuna takriban wa Ethiopia 870,000 walioko ghaibuni ambao walituma dola bilioni 2